I just wanna have a conversation. No, I'm not your type of baby. Listen, I'm just saying we can rule the world, just me and you. If you quit playing, won't you take a chance with me and have that conversation? I just wanna have that conversation with you. Come and talk to me. I just wanna have that conversation with you. Look, see we vibing and you know it's true. Baby, what it do? Do for me and I'ma do for you. No doubt about it. Boosie, I'm a Midwest king, looking for myself a queen. Ready to chase a dream with a dope self-esteem.
Thanks for coming out, everybody. We're going to be getting started here in about 5 minutes, so you guys just hold tight. We'll be there here shortly. Thank you.
What your ultimate goals? Maybe I can help with those. The mo was broke when he made you a blessing. You looking like a whole buffet, and I need some seconds. You say you had promiscuous ways, that was back in the day. I'll be alive, I say I did it. That shit was a phase. So baby, take this journey with me. You can pick the time and place. This nigga isn't picky. Smile on your face, I know the deal. Sign and deliver after seal. I can see it in her eyes, this one right here for real. I just wanna have a conversation. No, I'm not your type of baby. Listen, I'm just saying we can rule the world, just me and you. If you quit playing, won't you take the chance with me and have that conversation? I just wanna have that conversation with you. Come and talk, yeah. I just wanna have that conversation with you. Lady, you so far ahead of these others, just like a ship on the horizon. Picking up on your vibe, signal stronger than Verizon. All the thoughts that I've been contemplating, ain't no time for faking or debating. You the one, ain't no mistaking. Look, I see you swag different. Always carry yourself like you ready, you know the mission. I had to know you, I'm Kim. I can see why you timid. Hold up now, baby, listen. Just take that dance with me. I can show you that there's a difference. I'm locked in. I throw away my playaways because you pop in. A shooter always shoot a shot. With you by my side, I guarantee we'll reach the top. I put that on God and then I give you all that I got. So baby, take this journey with me. You can pick the time and place. This nigga isn't picky. Smile on your face, I know the deal. Sign and deliver after seal.
What's up, Stank Monochat? Good to see you. I'm assuming the other brother is probably too big. We're going to be having some more people roll through once we get started. Thanks, y'all, for coming out. We'll be getting in there here in just a moment. Welcome to the Behind Them Sticks podcast, brought to you by TSWS Gaming.
Come and talk to me, Lennard Ray. That's Come on. Name. Come and talk to me. I just wanna have a conversation. No, I'm not your type of baby. Listen, I'm just saying we can rule the world, just me and you. If you quit playing, won't you take a chance with me and have that conversation? I just wanna have that conversation with you. Come and talk to me. I just wanna have that conversation with you. Look, see we vibing and you know it's true. Baby, what it do? Do for me and I'ma do for you. No doubt about it. Boosie, I'm a Midwest king, looking for myself a queen. Ready to chase a dream with a dope self-esteem. You find it in all I know, and that's for real. You get to shaking that ass on the floor, and I see what's real. No disrespect, I just tell it like it is. Do you ever want some kids? What your ultimate goals? Maybe I can help with those. The mo was broke when he made you a blessing. You looking like a whole buffet, and I need some seconds. You say you had promiscuous ways, that was back in the day. I'll be alive, I say I did it. That shit was a phase. So baby, take this journey with me. You can pick the time and place. This nigga isn't picky. Smile on your face.
Hello and welcome everybody to this stream.
No, I'm just playing, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Behind Them Sticks with your boy Ham Solo. I'm doing it live with my boy today, Barry. Is it Carenza?
That is correct.
Awesome. Nailed it. Let's go. He's also known as Hawk, so definitely holler at him, see what he's all about. But as of right at this moment, we're going to get into what he loves about gaming, how he got into gaming. We're also gonna, of course, talk about some of these events, and then yeah, yada yada yada. So let's go on ahead and get into it. First and foremost, what gaming and social media platforms are you on so people can check out what you got going on or game with you or whatever?
Yeah, so my main social media platform that I use is Twitter. I mainly use that for like more business and just talking with people, and that's at Hawk Hellfire. I'm also on Discord. So if you're in like the Nintendo Fuse Discord channel or the Premium Edition Games Discord channel, you'll be able to reach out to me there. And because I'll answer messages on either, I really don't care. Those are my main ones. Of course, on YouTube, you could see me at youtube.com/NintendoFuse, where I do my bi-weekly podcast with Nintendo Fuse every other Monday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. So this past Monday, we just had one, and that's a live podcast with video. And also all podcast services, you can find the Nintendo Fuse and the Premium Playcast there as well.
Yeah, man. So throw me a little bit around with like your excitement for what's going on with Nintendo right now. I'm kind of interested.
I mean, Nintendo, there's a lot of what is going on with Nintendo right now, right? I mean,
Right.
we're all getting a direct. Direct is most likely happening. E3, while it was canceled, unfortunately, it was only canceled a couple months ago, and these things are planned a year in advance. Like, what are we going to show? What's going to be saved for the June month? So I would be very surprised if there wasn't a direct. If the direct aired, we could say a lot about what's going on, but really we don't know. But their schedule is still great. In fact, of the big three, they're the only ones with like real firepower in their schedule for 2022. They just really have a good lineup and a steady breakdown of lineup where we're a day away from Mario Strikers even. But they did have that one mishap yesterday online that, I'm not happy with them for.
Ooh, I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe explain if you don't mind.
So they decided to limit the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Collector's Edition to their store only, which I'm not a big fan of, but fine if that allows them to start taking more chances and bringing more stuff out here physically in the States. They cut out the middleman, fine, I'm okay with it. What I'm not okay with is them having an absolute piece of garbage website that can't handle the traffic and crashed, and people spent hours upon hours trying to buy a game and give them money, and none of us could, to the point that they actually had to take down the game and make a post. We'll put it back up at a later time, and we'll let you know when that is.
Yeah, that's kind of a mess. It sounds like it doesn't sound like
It's
such
a
a good
total
time at
mess.
all.
Total mess. Wasted a lot of hours of my day. Not happy.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a little insane. But out of curiosity, I want to know what you're playing right now.
Right now, the only game I'm currently playing, I guess, would be Final Fantasy 14 on the PC. MMO, love Final Fantasy, and some Mario Kart Tour on the mobile. I am in between games. I'm, when there's a big release coming out or a game I'm excited about, I try not to get involved in another game so that, I can focus and do what I have to with work, and then this time, boom, the game comes out. I can devote all my attention to it. But I decided I was gonna break that because I was like, I don't know about Mario Kart Strikers. I'm looking forward to it, but I don't know how long it's gonna take my attention. So I decided to start a game 2 days ago, and I wound up finishing it in a day. I was really shocked at how short it was, which is Record of Lotus War, D-Lit and Wonder Labyrinth. Fantastic Metroidvania, very, very reminiscent of Symphony of Night, but it's very short. Like, I don't know how long it took me, but I just kind of like flowed through. Interesting mechanics, but it is on the shorter side.
Gotcha. So what is Mario Strikers the big game that you're anticipating, or is there something else?
No, biggest game I'm anticipating is Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which is next month.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, there's other big games this year that I'm absolutely looking forward to, but Mario Strikers is kind of like holding it over till the next one.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, Mario Strikers does look pretty dang cool, though. I mean, I like a lot of their sports games. I remember I loved Mario Tennis back in the
Oh
day
yeah,
on the 64. That was my jam.
so good.
Didn't they have a different Mario soccer game? I could have swore.
No, they've Strikers was on the GameCube and the Wii, and then that was their soccer game.
Okay, so they did it. So there was one prior to what's
Yeah,
out.
this is the
What's
third
coming
one.
out now. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I thought. I was gonna say I thought I played a soccer game with Mario in it before, and I don't remember all those crazy pads that they got now in this new one. But I don't know, whatever. But anyways, moving forward, just kind of wondering. So we had talked about prior to the show what consoles that you started out with, and you said
Mhm.
one was the Commodore 64. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
And what was the other one? Because these are what you had just available in the household.
The Atari 8-bit computer line, the 400 and the 800.
Lord, Lord, Lord. Tell me, what is that like? And then, I mean, also, I want to know just like, you must be like blown away with just what we got now compared to, growing up and whatnot.
Oh well,
It's just,
yeah.
it's insanely night and day. But I just I want you to describe the kind of the feeling and what games you were kind of playing back then first. Going ahead.
I mean, wonderment, just absolute wonderment. With the computing power. I mean, I grew up with gaming being a huge part of my life for a multitude of reasons. Besides having those systems, the reason we had those systems is my uncle owned a software store, so he would, always have gifts of games for us, and he would always be like, "Oh, this came in. This is pretty cool. You should try it." And he got my dad into programming and making games on the Atari, because back then you would get cartridges, a basic cartridge, and you would plug it in and you could just program right there. Like anyone came with a book and anyone could make their own game. It was a very different world, I would say, but there was a lot of imagination in games back then. Like you really had to, there was no real big storytelling. There was no, huge cinematics or anything like that. A lot of it came from instruction manuals and just your imagine. Oh, this group of pixels here is an ice cream cone. Okay, that's an ice cream cone. But it also was kind of a interesting blur between using a controller and using a keyboard, because they were computer games, so they did utilize everything they had for them. But they were just, I mean, you could say, like most people say, oh, Atari, Pac-Man, Centipede, Millipede. I mean, I played those, but I really fell in love with games like Mountain King, Miner 2049er, Agent USA, Thing on a Spring, like a lot of games that people probably haven't heard of, or Montezuma's Revenge. There's so many of these games that just like spring to mind because of my uncle. I had so many of these games that would be considered hidden gems or forgotten about. So I was blessed to be able to experience a lot of them, even though by today's standards you'd probably look at them and go, oh, like Star Raiders. I love the original Star Raiders, not the 2600 version, the 8-bit computer version. Just a phenomenal game, and some of them have done things that they still not doing today for whatever reason.
Okay. So starting out with that, I mean, that is back there sometime a ways ago. Moving forward to when you started growing up and, at that point when you were playing like Commodore and the Atari, that was like the gateway, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of like solidified it for you when it was a kid? Was those the systems that did it, or was it something a little bit more down the line?
Those systems solidified my love of games because
Okay.
that's what I did. I did the other things that kids do, Cub Scouts, T-ball, all that stuff, play with my friends. But, just being able to play and experience those worlds was, a gateway to imagination. But you know how it is when a kid, and even adults, we always as humans want what we can't have or what we don't have, right? We always, oh, I would like this. I would like this. Oh, if only I could buy this. So when I was a kid, and I went to my friend's house for the first time, and they had this brand new thing called a Nintendo Entertainment System. And we played
NES.
Super Mario, and my mind was blown. And of course, I knew Mario from Donkey Kong and the original Mario Brothers, which I did play. But when I first saw Super Mario Brothers as a kid, that was just like this. This is amazing. And I didn't get an NES until 6th grade, so 1994, the end of
Oh,
'94.
Lord.
So
You went a
yeah,
hot minute without that then.
so but I didn't have one personally, but that meant I went to friends' houses all the time and was like, "What do you want to do?" I ran right to the NES. I pulled out the little shoebox that usually people kept their cartridges in, and I would play. And I got to experience a bunch of games because everyone had different games. But that's what I would do. It's like, you want to watch a movie? No. You want to play outside? No. Like, all I wanted to do was play the NES because I didn't have one. And it's always that case where when you don't have something, you want it more.
Absolutely, absolutely. No doubt. So the NES got you even further in love with gaming.
Further.
Much more like colors and just pretty and cool story to kind of go with it. What was some of the games that, I mean, other than Mario, of course, but like, did you ever actually end up having that console at some point?
Yeah,
when you were a
I
kid?
got it. Like I said, I got it 6th grade. I
Okay,
got
yeah,
the
that's right.
NES.
6th grade.
And
So-
then I went back.
So when you had that, what were like some of the staple games other than, some of the obvious ones?
Well, of course, the Mario trilogy, and I still got like Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. and stuff I already enjoyed on the Atari. Zelda was huge, both Zeldas. Final Fantasy was huge. Dragon Warrior, which Dragon Quest, but it was Dragon Warrior for us. That's where I solidified my love for JRPGs. Those two games specifically. Then some other games, Wizards of Warriors, the trilogy there. Mega Man, of course. I fell in
Mega
love with Mega Man. Had to get the 6 games there. And I would always try and do that. And like, I would go to the library at school, and they would have like a Nintendo book and how to win, and I would look and see what games, because there was no internet, so I had no idea. And I saw like there was an X-Men game, and I was so excited. So of course I got the Uncanny X-Men. It was by LJN. It sucked, but oh my god, I get to play as X-Men. I love the cartoon. I love the characters. I'm trying to think. Star Tropics. The 2 Star Tropics games were good. Gargoyles Quest 2 was a big one for me. I loved that series too. There's so many great games on the NES, and I think coming from the end of life, I would go to Toys R Us, and they had very little selection left because they were phasing it out at this point. So I would try to get whatever I could. I would go to Blockbuster, and they would have a pre-owned section, and whatever my dad would buy me, it would be like whatever was there. That's what I had to pick from. Again, there was no internet. I didn't know a console list or what was there. Eventually we had a Funko Land and went there, and I would get a few games here or there, but we didn't know what it was like. I didn't have a Nintendo Power. My best friend had a Nintendo Power subscription, so I would call him sometimes and be like, "Hey, what's this game?" or "How do I do this?" or "What's Counselor Corner say?" But it was a magical system, and will always hold a special spot in my heart for sure.
All right. So moving from the Nintendo, going a little bit down that line a little bit more, what was the next staple system?
Super Nintendo.
Oh, you just moved right to the next Nintendo.
Everyone.
So I mean, obviously you cover Nintendo stuff, right?
Yes.
Is Nintendo your like, would you call that your preferred platform?
I would say if I had to only have one, I would statistically be safest with a Nintendo platform. However, because I didn't have a Nintendo and I would always play games when I went to people's houses, that meant I also got to experience the Sega Genesis. I also got to experience the TurboGrafx 16. I didn't know anybody with a Master System, unfortunately. So I got to experience those games. And when I went to Toys R Us, to even get NES games, 95, 96, there were Saturn kiosks that, playing Panzer Dragoon and, PlayStation kiosks. And one of my best friends got a PlayStation. So, he would go over there and he would rent games and we would burn them because that was the thing then. We didn't have a lot of money. So he had a library of burnt games and had his system modded. And, we just played so many games on the PlayStation 2. 2 as in also, not 2 as in the second system. And he had that while I had the 64. And any 64 only console owners, the droughts we had to go through. Boy, those droughts sucked between games. So it was cool to be able to experience that. And of course, once I got money and a job, it was like, I'm not letting one system be my hold. There's games on every platform I love, so damn it, I'm gonna go out and get them all.
I know, and that money, that money gets to piling up on what you spend. I mean, it starts to pile up.
Well, you got pre-owned too. It's like I didn't start getting consoles like at launch, like all the consoles at launch until last generation, the PS4, Xbox One, and Wii U. Prior to that, I would get the GameCube, the Wii at launch, the 360 I got at launch, but all the others I didn't. Like PS3, I got, I think, in 2010. Like I waited because I'm like, I have plenty on 360 to play, plenty on the Wii to play. There wasn't enough PS3 exclusives, and in that generation, a lot of stuff ran better on 360 anyway. So there wasn't enough PS3 exclusives until
the 360 was then. Just a freaking beast.
Oh, it was a great system.
The only thing it was missing was wireless, which they ended up putting into the rebooted consoles or whatnot.
You're talking like Wi-Fi or wireless controllers?
Well, like Wi-Fi without having to buy a dongle.
I was gonna say they had the dongle,
right?
Which I bought.
Yeah, of course. Everybody had that little dongle with the little antenna that like swings around and whatnot. On the back, you could clip it on there if you wanted. But yeah, that was the only thing to me that thing was like missing, like that I wish was just kind of native with that console. But other than that, it was so good at everything that you needed it to do.
No, 360 was a phenomenal. Look, every system has its pros and cons. There's no such thing as a perfect system, and I hate when I see people belittle other people for their console of choice. It's like, who cares? When you're a kid, you stuck up for whatever system you had because you had to defend it because you didn't have the other one, so you wanted to feel better about yourself, which was silly. And the whole console wars, it was just marketing. It was just marketing. They don't care. Just play what you like and play on everything. It's so silly.
Oh yeah, I don't know how many times I've like heard like developers come out and say, "Yo, like I used to work at, the other console, and I've met so many people that used to work at the other place, or I remember that fool from when I used to work at Xbox. We used to work together over there, and now we're working at PlayStation or the other way around." And like, I can only imagine them like scrolling through Twitter, just being like, "Yo, like these dudes are crazy. Like we're all cool, but they're not cool." And it's just weird,
It's very weird. Pretty much everybody in the industry, they're friends with everybody. They see each other at trade shows. They see each other at conventions. They're all friendly. The majority of people who work in the gaming industry, I'm not going to say all of them, but the majority of them, they all grew up playing games. And I am fairly certain they grew up playing games for a different company than they work for. They like them all. And even the bigwigs, we've seen, Phil Spencer I love Nintendo. Like, my kids play Nintendo, I play Nintendo. He's publicly stated. He went on the Animal Crossing talking show. I mean, and that's head of Xbox. And you have Sakurai doing a Smash presentation from his living room, and you can clearly see a PlayStation and an Xbox and stuff like that there. Like, they're all gaming. They're all gaming and enjoying themselves.
Yeah, in a sense, it's like military to me. I mean, they, the Marines might, talk a little stuff about the Army or something like that. But at the end of the day, it's all respect. It's all, and you're all working together in the same vicinity of each other. So you want to keep it cool. You want to be able to reach out and talk to somebody if you need to. You don't want to be burning bridges out here like people make it seem like you want to be doing. Definitely not cool. But but moving forward, so So I think we left off at like the Super Nintendo, I
Yeah.
believe last. You didn't really mention any games that you were getting down on that console because we kind of veered off. Like I said, I like to do a lot.
Super Nintendo had some of my favorite games of all time. I mean, Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy IV, Chrono Trigger, Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, Super Metroid, Mario World, Mario RPG, Secret of Mana. I mean, Illusion of Gaia, Seventh Saga. I mean, the list goes on and on. There was so many phenomenal games. Donkey Kong Country trilogy. I mean, everywhere you looked, there was a great series. Breath of Fire started there. It was the one console that I did heavily emulate afterwards, the Super Nintendo, because I had played all the games I wanted to play, and I didn't have a lot of money. And Super Nintendo was the first real console I think that I became aware, and I think a lot of people became aware of how many games didn't hit our shore. There was NES games that didn't hit our shore, but they didn't have the same impact as the Super Nintendo games that we did not get. And so there were a lot of fan translations that you could download and play, and I did that a lot. Final Fantasy V, Secret of Mana 2, which is now Trials of Mana, Dragon Quest 5 and 6. There was so many games that we just never got, and there were a lot of them are JRPGs, and that became my favorite genre. So I was like, oh, what am I going to do in college? I can't bring my system because I'm dorming right now. Oh, I'm going to emulate the Super Nintendo and play some games that I can't go to the store and play right now.
Right. That's brilliant. I mean, that's all you got, right? And Nintendo is pretty good at doing that too. Like you can't get a hold of that game or something like that.
Well,
Like,
this wasn't Nintendo's fault. This are Square, and mainly Square, not and we're an Enix at the time, not bringing that stuff over. But
but as of
it
now,
was
you can say
now
that.
you can now you can play them all pretty much. Even like Live Alive or Live Alive or whatever is coming out now finally with an official translation. Another Super Nintendo game though. That's one I didn't get a chance to play, so I'm very much looking forward to tackling that this year.
Okay. So Super Nintendo was extra dope. You said that you just went from Nintendo to Nintendo to the Nintendo from each
Mhm.
generation. So obviously the next one was 64.
Yep, 64.
Did you invest any time into any of these Game Boy devices throughout this
Oh,
period?
absolutely, yeah. The Game Boy was actually my first Nintendo system I owned. I owned that before the NES. And I did that because I couldn't get my parents to buy it for me when I told them I wanted video games, and the whole wish thing. Oh, you have video games at home. They gave me a Tiger LCD. They got me the handheld. So I was like, oh, it's not the same thing.
No.
So I had to trade baseball cards to a schoolmate to get their Game Boy to start getting Game Boy. No, I love the Game Boy. The Game Boy had so many great games, and because I got it early, like 92-ish, I want to say, there was still that nice window where you could still get the early games for cheap, and there were still new games coming out, so you had that new game excitement. Games like obviously all the Kirby games, all 5 Kirby games I absolutely loved. Mario Land and Mario Land 2. Link's Awakening is my favorite Zelda game of all time. Just I even did like the Final Fantasy Adventure, and which was part of the Mana series, and Final Fantasy Legend, which is the Saga series. But I didn't know that at the time. I just got them and wanted to play them. Certain games that a lot of people don't talk about, like Revenge of the Gator, was one of my favorite little games to just go to as a pinball game, but it was just quirky. And then of course I was that kid that had Mortal Kombat 2 on the Game Boy, which is actually a very good port. And then I got Mortal Kombat 1, and that was a mistake. That's a terrible port. I loved it so much that like because I didn't have a Super, I had Donkey Kong Land, so I did the Donkey Kong Land games. And I actually remember writing a 100% guide for Donkey Kong Land 2 on WordPerfect on my old IBM, WordPerfect, which I don't even think exists anymore. And I don't know where it is. I printed it all out on dot matrix, if you know what dot matrix printing is. And I don't know where it is. That file's long gone. All my work is gone. But that's how much I loved the Game Boy. It was just something cool, and I've been a portable fan ever since.
Dope. So you were heavy into the Nintendo handhelds, which is pretty dope. But to go further upon because I only want to use a limited amount of time. I could talk about this stuff. I mean, we could sit back and talk about this stuff for freaking hours, but let's keep it moving because I get really terrible at just not moving on. So 64, hit me with the top 5 games for you on that console.
Top 5 games on 64. You skipped a system, by the way, but 64.
Oh, what system?
Virtual Boy.
Oh, the red. Oh, man.
I was one of those kids that got a Virtual Boy on clearance before I had a 64. And I love that thing. I still love that thing to this day.
The Mario Tennis. Oh, man. I remember getting sick playing.
Never got sick on that Virtual Boy. I still love it. Super underrated. So much
thing
fun.
Is heavy as hell.
I love it. But
what was the game on there other than Mario?
Oh, there was Mario Clash, Mario Tennis, Wario Land, Jack Brothers. There was Panic Bomber, one of my favorite games in the system. There was Wario Waterworld. I mean, there was Red Alarm. There was Galactic Pinball, Vertical Force. There was a bunch of them. I mean, there was only 14, but that's just Funky Bowling. I had them all because there was such a small library. I was able to convince my grandmother to get them on clearance for me, so I played them all.
Oh my god! You said there's a bunch. There's 14.
Yeah, America. Then I started as an import, But
yeah, that thing was really cool and ahead of its time.
It was ahead of its time, and it was also rushed to market. There was a lot of reasons why that failed, but I still love that controller. I stand by the Virtual Boy as one of the best controllers out there and most comfortable. But 64, I say top 5 games in no order on the 64. Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, Mario 64 have to be there. I would say the last 2 would go to Ogre Battle 64 and Harvest Moon 64. Probably.
Wow, and Harvest Moon is really expensive right now.
It's a great game.
If you're trying to,
but there were other greats too. There were other greats too. Bomberman 64 was a blast, and Rare's output, of course. Gold. Notice I didn't even mention GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, Jet Force Gemini, Diddy Kong Racing, Mario Kart. Like there were a lot of great games. Banjo Kazooie. I mean, I'm sure people are like, "How could you not mention those?" You said top 5. I did top 5.
Fair enough. Yeah. I was expecting a few deep cuts in there, so I thought that was pretty nice. So 64, big fan of that. What was your favorite accessory to
Rumble
the 64? Pack. The Rumble Pack?
Rumble Pack was my favorite accessory because when I first played GoldenEye, I played on Star Fox because that's when it came out, and I played Star Fox with it, and it was cool. But when I first played GoldenEye with the Rumble Pack, and I fired the gun, and I felt that it just felt so, oh my god, like it was literally a mind-blowing moment. I'm like, I have to get this. This is amazing.
Yeah,
so I'd say
that Rumble Pack was different. I had to put batteries in my Rumble Pack. Did you have that one?
Piece. No, I had the official one, and then I got like I think it was Interact. It was like a black one. It had a memory card with the Rumble in it together, to save. Like, oh, it was one and done, Because
that thing was heavy. Mine was heavy, especially with the batteries in it, and then I could pop a memory card in on top of that as well. So that thing was heavy as hell. I think it was even heavier than than the Dreamcast controller ended up being when I put the Rumble Pack and the VMU in that thing.
Yeah,
it's pretty dope though. I love the Dreamcast.
I love the Dreamcast. I think the controller's terrible.
The controller is something else, and it is really weird, like going from like an Xbox controller where you have that second stick.
Well,
and then going back and playing a Dreamcast game and like turning on Sonic Adventures and having to use the triggers to look around.
You can get that is true.
It was terrible. It's pretty terrible. I beat that game recently again, and yeah, it was a lot more horrible than I remember it being. For sure.
Certain games did not age well.
No, that's one of them for sure. What do you think of the new? I know I'm sticking around this Sonic subject for a little bit, but what do you think of the new Frontiers how that looks.
Cautiously optimistic. As a Sonic fan, I've been burned so many times, but I'm a huge open world fan. And Sonic to me just doesn't feel like a good open world character because I feel like he should be just running. The world kind of looks more realistic than Sonic should. And I think the combat looks boring as hell. Like IGN did. Here's the combat thing, and I'm like, I'm gonna get bored just fight. It's gonna take me 5 minutes to kill one enemy. Like, come on. Like a boss, okay, I could see, but if this is just a regular enemy, I'm just gonna run past all of them. Screw that.
I don't know. I thought it looked kind of cool, but like I feel what you're saying about the open world. The thing to me is like to contain his speed is kind of weird to me. I want to like if I have an open world with Sonic, I need it to be like ginormous to the point where it feels like I'm running for like miles in just a few seconds.
Yeah, I agree there. It's I guess that's why I'm
hard to do.
cautiously optimistic. It's very hard to do. I'm really hoping that they're gonna pull it off. I know there's an article stating like, oh, they're aiming to have a highly rated game, and all I could think about is they should be doing that with every game. What the heck, Sonic Team?
Why is this news?
Why is this news?
All
We're
right.
really trying this time, guys. Sorry about Sonic Forces.
So, what were some of the other consoles that you had between the 64 and the Super Nintendo?
That was that was all I had. I didn't have any others. I mean, I played. My brother had a 3DO, so I got to play some of that.
Ooh, okay. I got a Gold Star one right behind me.
Nice. I didn't really get to experience more consoles personally until GameCube era, GameCube, PS2, Xbox era, because that's when I was in college and I started.
Which is the next thing, so you might as well just jump right into that.
Oh, GameCube was fantastic. It was an underrated, underappreciated system. I got that at launch. I waited outside Toys R Us again. I know in the comments, Stank talking about Toys R Us. Yeah, I waited outside Toys R Us because I just loved that store, and I was able to get able to pick up my GameCube with launch, and that system was so good. That was our college party system. Between Smash Melee and Super Monkey Ball. Those two games were enough to class us. Like, we didn't even need Mario Kart or anything like that. Like, that was just what we just spent our time. Monkey Target and Smash Melee was absolutely enough for us. But no, the GameCube had so many great games.
Double Dash.
Double Dash was good. Skies of Arcadia, Tales of Fantasia, or not Fantasia, of Symphonia. There were just so many fantastic games on it. Eternal Darkness
wow. is my favorite GameCube game of all time.
So good, and like even it was the last system for me that really I cared about shooters. So I'm one of the few people that enjoyed Geist. I remember when Time Splitters 2 came out, and I was able to make a custom level, and I started making the maps from Legend of Zelda 1 into levels, like using the grids and everything. Like, it was something magical. Animal Crossing first appeared there. I enjoyed Star Fox Adventures, which I know some people didn't, but I did. I even enjoyed Sunshine a bit. Metroid Prime. I mean,
did you like Luigi's Mansion?
Oh yeah, Luigi's Mansion was great. It was quick, but it was great. Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2 and Rogue Squadron 3, phenomenal games, especially 2. Just there was something magical about that system, but despite that, it was also one of those where I started having money, and I would go to secondhand shops, and I got a Dreamcast, I got a Saturn, and then I got an Xbox, and I got a PlayStation 2, and when I got my PlayStation 2, I got one PlayStation 2 game, only one, which was Grand Theft Auto 3, because everyone wouldn't shut up about it. So I said, I got to see what this is like. And the rest of it was just PS1 games. I played because I didn't have a PS1, I was like, all right, now because the GameCube also had those droughts, not as bad as N64, but it still had those droughts. So I used those droughts to go back and play all the PlayStation classics I missed, like Chrono Cross, which I always wanted to play, Legend of Mana, Legend of Dragoon, Grandia 1, used the Dreamcast for like Grandia 2 and stuff like all these great games I'm finally able to go back and play. And that to me was really the heaven, because in between classes and stuff, it was like gaming nirvana between the Saturn, the Dreamcast, the Xbox, the PS1, and the PS2, plus the GameCube. It was like overload, but I managed. I was like targeting what I wanted to play, and nothing has ever come close to that period.
I'm anticipating that same kind of feeling this generation with games. The kind of feeling that we had back in, the early 2000s with all of those different platforms, just making some banging games. Like, I really feel like that's coming back around again.
I want you to be right so badly.
Well, last generation, I mean,
was great.
With the PS4 was like firing on all cylinders. The Xbox, not so much. The Nintendo, not until the Switch.
Yeah, the Wii U did. The Wii U was firing. It was just no one was looking.
Right.
And Nintendo was putting out great stuff, but no one seemed to care.
Nobody cared at all. So I'm really thinking this generation, everyone's satisfied with the Switch. Even though, I mean, even though a lot of people are saying, it'd be nice to see something a little bit more high performance. Sure.
That's coming.
Yeah, sure. That's coming down the line. But all in all, people are happy with the Switch where it is. People are happy with the PS5, the way that is, with how it's running and everything. The Series S and X, they looked almost dead towards the end of the last generation, but they came out guns blazing with the console at least. Now we just need the games to kind of catch up with it. But the console and the services that come with the Xbox, guns blazing, as I was saying before.
I would say Xbox as a company is coming out guns blazing. I wouldn't say the console is. I know the sales have picked up, but I was just reading an article today about, Microsoft bringing Game Pass to TVs. They're starting with Samsung TVs. So Microsoft is going all in on the service. And if they're going
100%.
all in on the service, you know what's going to falter? Their hardware. There's no reason. If I say, hey, I can get a new Samsung TV, which I'm not going to because I just bought a new one 2 years ago. But like, I can get a new Samsung TV and I can play my Xbox games streamed that way. Why should I buy the box? Now, there's a reason to buy the box.
Won't go out and buy the box.
Exactly, which means if the average consumer is not buying it, only the hardcore people, only those like me or you that maybe like physical games and we wanna have that. But that number is going to go down, and then people are going to look and see Xbox sales versus PlayStation and Nintendo sales, and Xbox console sales are going to go down, and people are like, Xbox is dead. No, Xbox has just moved. Now, the real sign is if you see Microsoft bring all their games, to PlayStation and to Nintendo. They're starting to. Some of the games do come to Nintendo specifically, but a few to PlayStation. But if you see them saying, oh yeah, we're putting day one on Switch, day one on PlayStation 5, that's when you know the Series X or Xbox, or whatever platform is out, if there is another box afterwards, it's dead in the water. Because there's no reason for people to purchase the system if they can get their exclusives on another platform, because they're no longer exclusives.
I still think people would go out to purchase the preferred platform. Like, say, Xbox comes out with a Series Y or something like that, which a lot of people might ask the question why. But I still think a person like me and many others would still want the actual hardware if you can get it. Yeah. If the specs of the hardware are gonna outdo the specs I can get anywhere else other than PC, I'm gonna get the console because I'd rather play it on my TV.
You know what? You're right, and there's going to be a select few that will do that. Like I'll buy it too, but to the average consumer, if they said, "Hey, what do you want to buy? Do you want to buy a Switch where you can get all of Nintendo's games, the third-party games, and Microsoft's first-party titles, or the Xbox where you can get third-party games and Microsoft's first-party titles?" Well, one has more games. Same with PlayStation. You know, you have Sony's games plus Microsoft's. There would be less of a reason to go do it. You know, that's the console exclusives are the very reason why people purchase systems. That's the main reason to own systems. And many gamers now are two console owners, right? They're usually a PlayStation or an Xbox with a Switch. You know, PC. Some people will do that. Some people are PC and Switch only. Very few of us have them all. But if Microsoft puts their stuff on other platforms, it's very little reason for the general public to purchase. The hardcore is the people who love Xbox, of course. But that's not 40, 50, 60, 80, 100 million people. That's maybe a million or two.
Yeah, I feel that. But I do also think if they're providing these services and making big money on the services, there's still always, for me, I personally think they're still always going to be able to provide some sort of hardware to, because, I mean, there's going to be those select people, and I'm not going to say it's all of the people at all, because it's just not. But there's still going to be those select people that, you know, oh, I bought this new Samsung TV. I'm playing it on there. I do that for like about a year, and then I'm just like, I'd rather have it just better.
I'm not talking Xbox versus the TV. I'm talking if Microsoft brought it to PlayStation and Nintendo, though.
I'm interested about that. I've talked to a few other people about that before, and with all of these acquisitions happening, I just don't see, especially as, I mean, not derogatory way, but as stingy as PlayStation and Nintendo can be, I don't see them being willing to let's share these exclusives.
Well, no, they're not going to share, but Microsoft is going to be sharing. That's what I'm saying. Microsoft
you think they will share with PlayStation without PlayStation sharing back?
Why should they? They're positioning themselves as a service. Here's the thing. If they release a game, let's just take Halo. I don't care what Halo 5722, the reach after years, whatever you want to call it. If they release this game on Xbox and it sells 5 million copies, 10 million copies, that's great. They release it on PC, another 5, 10 million, great. What's if they say they release it on PlayStation? Now that sells another 5, 10 million. Well, you know, Sony is going to make some money off that 5 to 10 million because it was on their platform. But you know who else makes that money? Microsoft. So if Microsoft no longer gives a crap about hardware sales, they'll actually make more money in the long run. And Microsoft does care about money. Now, people have been saying this about Nintendo for a long time, right? Nintendo should go third party. Nintendo's failure. Nintendo's doomed. They've been saying that since the 80s. They're still incorrect. But Microsoft will continue doing boxes as long as it's profitable for them because they're a company. If they're losing money on it, they're going to find another way. No company wants to sit there putting out a product that's losing them money. So it really depends on what Microsoft does with all these acquisitions.
What you're saying sounds really similar to Microsoft Word and Apple.
Exactly. Microsoft as a company, like Microsoft owns PC, right? The majority of people play games on Windows. Mm-hmm. So they've already got
that's kind of how I feel like this is going to go.
Yeah. Well, that's why they've embraced PC. They've embraced PC far from the beginning. But it really depends, and I think this generation is going to determine if at the end of the generation, the Series X is trailing behind the PlayStation 5 and the Switch and the Switch Pro or Switch 2 or whatever comes out so badly, you're going to see Microsoft try and do some experiments. Let's try this game on those systems because we're already seeing that, right? Cuphead wound up going to the Switch and did better on the Switch. Ori went to the Switch and did better on the Switch. They bought Bethesda, Deathloop, was a PlayStation 5 exclusive. You're seeing these
timed
We Happy
exclusive.
Few. Timed, yeah. We Happy Few is the same thing. And you bet your butt Call of Duty is going to all systems. Call of Duty is going to continue to go to all systems because it sells. Microsoft's going to want that money. So you're going to see them doing this with third party first. And if they're making more money, you're going to see them start doing it with first party. And I think the first party you're going to see is with Rare. I think they're going to experiment with Nintendo. I think they're going to say, hey, we've done shit all with Banjo. We've done shit all with Conker. We've done shit all with every Rare property pretty much, except for Killer Instinct and Battletoads. And those weren't even made by Rare. Let's do something. Let's see.
Isn't Sea of Thieves also Rare?
It is that they actually made that, but that's not a big IP that Nintendo fans would know. There is the rumor about GoldenEye right now, and I know this is being recorded before the 12th, so if you're listening to this after the 12th and you're like, oh yeah, we saw GoldenEye already. There's rumors that GoldenEye is going to Xbox, the remaster of GoldenEye.
Right.
I believe they can only do that with Nintendo's permission, because Nintendo owns the publishing rights. Which means they're probably playing ball. Banjo-Kazooie is on NSO on the N64 expansion pass. So they're playing ball. Banjo is also in Smash Brothers. They're communicating. They're talking. Things are happening behind the scenes between those two companies. I don't know about Sony and Microsoft, but I can tell you
don't think they're going to be communicating in the terms of sharing for quite some time.
Nintendo will share only what. But you know what Nintendo has shared though. Fatal Frame came out on all platforms. Nintendo co-owns the IP.
Well, I could see Nintendo sharing before PlayStation, is what I'm saying, with Xbox.
Oh yeah, hands down, 100%.
Just because whatever Nintendo can do to keep console sales up, and Xbox can do with keeping services up, they might want to bring it together. And I don't know about you and about everybody else, but if I could install Game Pass on my Switch, it would have been done as soon as it came out. As soon as it dropped.
There were rumors about that like last year or 2 years ago.
Yeah, that was last year, or at the end of the year before. But so there was heavy rumors about that.
There could still happen. We don't know how the talks are going. We don't know how COVID had effect on it. We don't know what, but there's still talks. There's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes, and we know, especially with Nintendo, they're a very secretive company. They don't tell you. They drop stuff, and they're like, "Oh, here's this new game. It comes out in 2 months," and we're like, "Wait, what?" Where other companies are like, "Here's this new game. Enjoy waiting 6.5 years, and maybe we'll show you another trailer." Nintendo prefers to not show off anything until it's like, oh yeah, this is coming out really quickly, because they don't want you to have to sit there and wait for so long. They sometimes do, and look what happens when it does. Metroid Prime 4, Breath of the Wild 2, the delays and all this stuff. So they don't like to do it often. Look, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was announced earlier this year in February in Direct, and it comes out in July. That's a huge open world RPG. Like, that's insane from announcement in February to and it was supposed to come out in September. They actually pushed it up. So we don't know what's going on. And obviously this is being recorded before any potential June Nintendo Direct and before the Bethesda Xbox showcase on the 12th or the extended showcase on the 14th. So this all could be looked back at in 3 days and going, man, if only they knew.
Do you personally have faith in Xbox as a company?
Yes and no. Yes, because I think they're doing a lot of great things. No, because they're also doing a lot of stupid things. Microsoft doesn't seem to understand that when people ask them for exclusives and new IP, that didn't mean buy everybody else. And if you look at Microsoft when they came out, the Xbox, the original Xbox had a plethora of brand new IP. You know, great early Xbox games. They had a lot of stuff with Sega, a lot of good deals with Sega going on. They had some of their own stuff. They had Blinks. They had Bloodwake. They had the stuff from Rare, Grabbed by the Ghoulies. And they had, Cameo and Perfect Dark Zero at the 360 launch. there was just some great stuff coming out. Crimson Skies, man, Crimson Skies was such a good Xbox game. Microsoft, where'd it go? Gone. And then it seems like halfway through the 360 era, I mean, they had Mistwalker, they had Lost Odyssey and Blue Dragon and stuff, and then they just like lost it. They're halfway through 360, they got complacent. Oh, we're so far ahead of PlayStation, we don't care. Meanwhile, Sony pushed their ass to get back out of third place and wound up overselling the 360 barely. And ever since then, Microsoft just doesn't seem to understand exclusive games with IP and established IP. They got so much. And what do they do? Here's another Halo, here's another Forza, here's another Gears of War. Rinse and repeat. I mean, we're supposedly going to be a new Fable being shown off, or finally shown off. The last real Fable was on the 360 with Fable 3. You can count the Journey, which was the Kinect one, but that was also 360. That means the entire Xbox One generation, Fable didn't get a game, and we're 2 years into Series X.
Hell, they closed down.
Yeah, but they still own the IP. They can pass it. They keep buying studios. It's not like they don't have studios that can work on it or talented people. So many of their franchises, they don't. They would rather spend the money. Look, remember when Uncharted was coming out? I think it was Uncharted 3, maybe it was, or Uncharted 4. It was probably Uncharted 4. And Microsoft's like, well, we want to compete, so we're going to buy the timed exclusive for Rise of the Tomb Raider for 360 and Xbox One. That's our way of competing. Just create your own damn IP, make it original, make it cool. Don't people don't want timed exclusives. All that does is piss people off.
Right.
give us your own exclusive games. Give us your own. Use your IP. You're sitting on all of Rare's IPs. You're doing nothing with them. Use them. Why'd you spend all that money? Why? I wish Nintendo would buy those IP back, because at least they would do something with them. It's just, it sucks to sit on IP.
No, you ain't lying. It does kind of suck to sit there and be like, man, you guys had all this stuff and just not making moves with them at all. But I mean, this is the defining generation for how Xbox is gonna drive the vehicle this time around. So I feel like they have a lot to show up, to show off, and I'm excited. But they have a lot of ground to cover as well while doing so. So although you're dropping this, that, and a third, you have to make sure that this is your ecosystem that you're building and not others, while also bringing in new IP instead of what, like, Call of Duty and stuff like sure, that's nice to have, as this is money continuously going in my pocket. But if you're just dropping that game and you're not really working on anything new to stand out, well, that Call of Duty game is going to keep selling more on the PlayStation, even though it's an Xbox exclusive technically now.
Well, it's Xbox owned. It's not exclusive.
Owned, or what I'm saying.
If you said to the average person, name Microsoft owned IP, you're going to get the same three from the majority of people: Halo, Gears, Forza. It's like a trinity. And they say, okay, well, name something else. Name something else outside, and they'll have to sit there and think. And they'll probably name an IP that hasn't been used in a while, because Microsoft doesn't seem to really use their IPs.
Yeah,
they're the worst at it. I think they just keep buying. Instead of using what they have, they just keep buying.
Well, we'll see Sunday what they got in store, because which we're going to be hitting on that question about what you expect here shortly. But before we go into that, let's go ahead and finish up this subject, which we're getting kind of close towards the end of. So after the GameCube, because we veered off all the way from there. After the GameCube, I'm guessing you went to the Wii. Yep. And I want you to give me top 5 games from that now.
For the Wii,
Yeah.
Xenoblade Chronicles would be number one. Probably Skyward Sword, Twilight Princess, Mario Galaxy, 1 or 2, and there's a couple other ones I could choose, but I would probably say Mad World because it was just so much fun.
Okay. See, I never really got big into the Wii at all.
A lot of
At
people just
all.
got Wii Sports and that was it.
Yeah, Wii Sports. I mean, obviously the Super Smash Brothers and the Mario Karts. But as for the Wii, yeah, I mean, mostly when I went over people's houses that had them, we just played like bowling.
Yeah,
stuff
there's
like
so
that.
many great games that people just never they
Never.
never really looked at. And I mean, besides Nintendo's own property, there was a lot of other fun things and a lot of exclusives. Like even games that were multi-platform had exclusive versions for the Wii, like Prince of Persia: Forgotten Sands and Star Wars Force Unleashed. The Wii versions are different. Kind of like the old and like Super Nintendo and the Genesis versions are two different games. These were different. These were exclusive versions with exclusive powers and abilities. And then you got stuff like Lost in Shadow, and you got Dangerous Creatures, Tatsunoko versus Capcom. You know, just some really cool games. Muramasa, the Demon Blade. There was quite a bit on the system that a lot of people probably overlooked.
Sorry, I was muted. I got like something popped up on my phone that was kind of weird.
That's okay.
But anyways, all right. So let's get back on track. So Wii was a pretty dope console that you personally found a lot of different games in, where people like me just completely looked past.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was also gaming on the 360 a lot during that time too.
Sure, because that console was super dope. But as for the Wii, what was it like playing so many games with that controller pad, or did you end up buying something else?
Oh,
to
I
play
had the
those games with?
The Wii Controller Pro, the Classic Controller Pro, and the Classic Controller. I plugged those in, and I used those for the majority of the games if I could. Absolutely.
Okay, because I was wondering how the hell somebody would just sit there and sit with that wand and just
I mean,
play games.
there were certain games where it utilized it, but other times it was more of a hindrance than anything else.
Right. All right, and then this previous generation, let's go on ahead and tackle
Wii U.
that. Or I guess there's two of them because Nintendo's a little bit more staggered. So yeah, Wii U. Let's touch on that. I want to know what do you think that system was missing to keep it like why was it so bad?
The system itself wasn't bad.
Right.
The games themselves weren't bad. What it was missing was competent marketing. The marketing from Nintendo was atrocious. They failed to tell people what the system was so poorly that they had to make a separate video. Here's what the system actually is. And to this day, there are still people that think it was just an add-on to the Wii. They just did a terrible job explaining this is a brand new system, and here's why you want this brand new system. And that was all on them. That's the only reason. The Wii U was a very good system with a lot of unique stuff with the gamepad that was never done and can never be done again.
Because the gamepad flat out seemed really dope. It was big as hell, but it seemed really cool. And I remember I used to work with people with special needs, right? And one of the people I worked with had a Wii U, and I was just like at the time it was new. I was like, what the hell is that big ass thing? And I was like, that thing is portable. And then he was like, yeah, but you can also like hook it up to the TV. And he like hooked it up and showed me it to the TV and whatnot. And I was like, this thing is really cool. why have I not really heard much about this
Yep.
thing? I mean, I was heavy into the 360 at that time, and then moved on to the Xbox One. But yeah, like the Wii U kind of like was cool to see, but I don't know, like for some reason I didn't. I mean, you're right. The marketing really wasn't there. I didn't really hear much about it. Didn't really hear a whole lot of people playing it or getting it. So like, it took me going to work to even see that thing.
Yep.
I didn't see it at any of my friends' houses or anything like that. Everybody was playing PlayStation or Xbox at that time period.
Which is a shame because there is a lot. I mean, a lot of them have been ported to the Switch, and there's a reason they did that because they made these excellent games that no one played. So might as well bring them over. But there's still some games that are trapped on the Wii U that, as of now, will remain Wii U exclusive unless something changes. And it's a shame because some of them are just phenomenal games.
Some of those
that are
games
stuck
ported
there.
over, it sold like crazy on
Oh,
the
yeah.
Switch.
Because they were great games, and I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, what's with the Wii U ports?" And it's like, well, they invested all this money to create this great game to a system that had 13 million total sold. So the game probably sold 500,000 to 1 million tops. Where you have the Switch, which is on fire, much larger audience, over 100 million. Might as well put it there and see how it does. And I think every Wii U port pretty much has exceeded the Wii U sales significantly. And that's great. I'm glad these games get a second life. I welcome it.
Well, yeah, I mean, hell, they need it. They they need it. The developers deserve the credit that they put into that game.
Exactly.
And like it's not the developer's fault. It's the previous console's fault of just not getting out there to the people and into people's homes and everything like that. But moving on to the latest generation. So I'm guessing not only do you have a Switch, you have some other consoles. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, I have them all.
Okay, so you have PS5,
And
Series
Series
X,
X,
and the Switch. Tell me, I don't want you to pick which one you like more because I feel like that's more dependent on the game. But what I want you to tell me is like the biggest benefits of each console for you.
I think it's game variety is the biggest thing. When you have multiple systems, you have to choose where your attention goes, right? You can't really play them all at the exact same time. You really can only focus on one game at a time. And that's not saying you can't be playing two different games, but like you're not playing them at the same time. You're maybe alternating.
Right. One day, one game, another day, another
Exactly.
game, back and forth.
For me, it's just being able to play the best version of some games because some games will come out and the best version is Microsoft sometimes or PlayStation or Nintendo, and you get to play the best version. Sometimes it's
Wait, when's the
convenient.
best version been on Nintendo? You gotta tell me that one.
A lot of
third
a lot of
party.
lot of the indie stuff runs, the best. Plus, you have the portability. You don't need the graphical capabilities to play an indie sprite-based game. I mean, like I just mentioned earlier that I did Record of Lotus War. I did that on the Switch. I have it on PlayStation as well, but I did it on Switch, and it looked perfectly fine. It didn't need the graphical powerhouse of the PS5. It was fine, and I was able to. I usually play docked 99% of the time, but if I needed to get up and play and do something, I could still continue my gameplay, and that's obviously the biggest benefit to the Switch. But I think having the ability to just experience everything, and I'll say it's unfortunate, but I have used the Series X the absolute least. And I've mainly used it for playing some older stuff, 360 games that I've wanted to play, playing Flight Simulator, which was exclusive, enjoying that. But between the PlayStation's library and the Switch's library, I don't have a lot of time for anything in between because there's between those systems and it all depends also on what you enjoy playing, right?
Right. 100%. Because for me, it's the least turned on console is my Switch.
Yeah, I like JRPGs, Japanese style games. Like a lot of niche games, action adventure, visual novel. Like I like that stuff. I don't play shooters. I grew out of my first person shooter phase. Now they actually make me vertigo sick. I don't like horror games. I don't like, I don't need like games that are like grim dark and it's really hard to see and it's like, ooh, look, it's post-apocalyptic. I don't need that stuff. I like fun, colorful, JRPGs or action games or platformers or puzzles and stuff like that. So for me, between the PlayStation and the Switch, I can tackle it all. And that being said, I just finished Elden Ring, which is absolutely nothing like I said. It's more realistic and action adventure-y, but I did that on PlayStation, and I chose just like I'm a little more comfortable with it. I don't know which version between that and the Series X is better. It worked fine for me. I was fine with it. But if someone said, "Well, I have the Series X version, would you play that?" Of course. I have no problem playing either of them. I'm not an attention or achievement whore or a trophy whore. I don't care about either of those. I've had them,
Yeah,
but
me neither.
I don't care about any of that. I just like to play games for fun. There's some great games on the 360 and the Xbox One, even in the Series X, that I would like to play that are exclusive, and it's just lack of time. And like I said, like when I play, I like to set my schedule in advance. And here's the next game I'm going to be playing. And playing when I have time in between. Sometimes I only have time to play a game that's going to last me a day or two, and that's where the indies come into play really well. And again, the Switch is just perfect for that because it's just pick up and play. But that's again not to say I don't enjoy when I do play the Series X, and that's I own a lot of games for it. I still support them. They have my money, and they're fine with that, I'm sure.
Okay, between the 3 consoles, what's your favorite controller?
I know I don't have an Elite or an Elite 2 or anything like that. So if I probably did have that, I would say that the Xbox One Elite 2 or whatever would probably be my favorite controller. I just didn't feel like justifying the $200 price tag or whatever it is.
Yeah, for me, I wouldn't mind spending that on a controller, but at this point in time, I might as well wait for a new one to come out or something like that. I'm not finna drop $200 for something that I know some of my friends have had issues with, and it's like what, like 2 years past them dropping that controller even. So I mean, it's old at this point. I don't feel like $200. I don't want to pay $200 for something that's 2 years old. I'm good on that.
I would say it's kind of tough. I probably would be between the DualShock 5 and the Switch Pro controller. They both have pros and cons. And I think both of their cons really fall into their D-pads. Like I'm not a fan of the PlayStation D-pad where it's like 4 separate buttons.
And it's kind of slippery too.
And it's slippery. I like a D-pad that's one thing. And I like Nintendo's D-pad to the inventor of it. I just wish the Switch controller was a little bit bigger. It's a little small for my fingers, but I use it. What I do like about both controllers is the battery life, and I'm assuming the Series X controller is like that too. But the Series X uses actually batteries. The other ones are like the lithium. They last for a long time, and I absolutely love that.
Yeah, I have one of those things in the back of my Xbox One where you have the charger piece on it because I ain't throwing away batteries or all of that stuff. That's too much. I mean, that's a lot of money to spend.
Yeah. Oh no, totally. I have one of those too. It's just one of those that I haven't really played it enough to test the battery life on it. If you look at the previous, like 2 generations ago with the 360, I thought the 360 controller was excellent. Much better than PlayStation 3. I've never been a huge DualShock fan.
PlayStation 3 was awful. that controller is 6-axis. It was not the best to me at all.
I think I've gotten used to the PlayStation 5. I've gotten used to because it's a little bit bigger.
It's way bigger.
Yeah, I'm also not a huge fan of Rumble anymore. Like
really?
the haptic Rumble or the 3D Rumble or anything like that.
So you're not a big fan of the haptic feedback?
Some games it's great, but it depends. If it's a constant, I'm not a fan because it hurts my hand after a while. Like it makes my hand numb because it's just constant vibration, and I don't like the feeling of. I don't like the feeling of my fingers and my hands being numb just from the constant, So
Yeah, bouncing.
There are certain games that I absolutely will turn it off, and I'm fine with that. It's superficial. Rumble isn't what it used to be. It's not. They're just trying. Both Nintendo and Sony are definitely trying to reinvent Rumble. But it's it is what it is. It's a staple at this point. It doesn't have the same wow factor that it did back in the 64.
Yeah, I do like the subtleness of the DualSense controller when like certain things like raindrops are hitting it, or when you're playing GT7 and you can feel the brakes and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
like that kind of stuff I do like, but like there are implementations of the DualSense to where it feels like they turned the Rumble to 11.
Yep,
and
exactly.
It's like everything that you do in the game, the Rumble's at 11. And it just kind of gets old.
A lot of times it's like watching a 3D movie, right? You sit down for a 3D movie, you put in your glasses, and the movie starts, and you're like wowed. And like the first 5 minutes, you're like, this is incredible. And after that, you kind of forget it's 3D, and your mind just watches a movie as if it's just a movie. And I feel it's the same way with games when it's subtle. At first, it's like, ooh, this is really cool. And then you kind of like, it just becomes normal, so you kind of forget about it and you just focus on the game, unless it's annoyingly constantly rumbling. Astro's Playroom was phenomenal. Like I loved that game. That was a great showcase for what the Rumble could do. And there it never really overstayed its welcome, but other games have.
Got it. All right, so those 3 consoles, super duper dope. I'm really excited for everything. I'm really excited to see what Nintendo does, like with a new iteration of some sort of console. Or what I would like them to do is just keep the Switch the way the Switch is, and just make a really good home base that can maybe take advantage of some of the higher resolutions and stuff like that we would like to see. Because I think that the Switch, the way it is, I don't feel like they need to remake the Switch, because I feel like that's the wheel. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. I feel like that's great. The power on it is fine to me. I just would like to be able to, all right, I'm home, take off my shoes. Oh, here's my Switch, plug it in and get like double the output on my TV compared to when I was playing it. And so I'm excited to use the dock, because using the dock right now, I'm just like, it just doesn't.
Why?
Well, for me, it's just not as like, especially for something third party. I have for something third party that's kind of big, like let's use Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy for.
Well, that's streamed though. That's not native.
Streamed. I know that's streamed, but if you had a reason to make it native, then something like that hardware could take advantage of it. And then you could totally say, hey, when it's undocked, it's streamed. But when it's docked, then maybe you have some sort of like hard drive on the docked system or whatnot, and you can play it natively.
Well, there's rumors that the Switch OLED was supposed to have 4K output with the dock, but the chips needed for that are the exact same chips that Microsoft and Sony are trying to get with all this chip shortage. So either A, they opted not to use it because they didn't want to compete and have that chip shortage, or B, is that they've been hoarding them, that they've still been amassing those chips in advance, knowing that there's this shortage, and picking them up for a future system so that they can launch and say, here's our new system, and we have enough to meet demands because we've been stockpiling for 2 years or whatever, which is what I'm hoping for.
I'm betting that's the one. But anyways, so we got through all of those. That was a pretty nice section. That's usually always my longest section whenever I do this show. It's just kind of digging into your past and also kind of rating what you like and whatnot throughout that throughout that history. So moving forward, I'm going to go on ahead and ask you, what drew you to being a content creator now?
So for me, it's about passion, right? One of the things I've been doing for 20 something years now is just analyzing the industry in any way I can, and realizing the importance of not only patterns and pattern recognition and what systems will do, but also the past. And I think a lot of people, they'll look to the past and say like, oh, I missed these systems, let me go back and play them, which is something I absolutely did. But to really appreciate the history of the games and the systems and the companies and just the industry as a whole led me to a whole new rabbit hole where I wound up accidentally becoming a historian, and wound up having a lot to say and a lot of conversations with people. And when I had the opportunity to join Nintendo Fuse a decade ago, it was great because it gave me an outlet to kind of state my opinions and state my thoughts. And I'm not always right. I'm absolutely not. I know I'm wrong a lot of the times, just like everybody. And even if a pattern holds true, eventually it will break. But being able to do that and meet like-minded individuals has been phenomenal. And going on in the years with the rise of social media, which, just the outreach just grew and grew and grew, and just meeting new people and going to conventions and meeting new people. And to me, it's all about that. It's all about those interactions. It's all about making friends. It's all about helping one another and just really building a good foundation of people you can just hang out with and talk with. And if I could help somebody and I can use any platform I have to help them, then I'll use it. And I'll do things like interviews with small either developers or people who do like soundtracks, like fan soundtracks, in honor of different game series. Giving them a voice, give them a little spotlight. And if I could help them gain some attention, then to me that's awesome. That's what makes it all worthwhile as well.
Badass. Now, when did you start doing content creation?
I started doing like what you would consider to be content creation, like I said, about 10 years ago when I joined Nintendo Fuse. Prior to that, back in the late 90s, I used to actually do my own web pages. I did one for Zelda, one for Final Fantasy VI, like hard coding HTML, self-taught, just to do it in my spare time, just to try to help people with like hints and tips and how to do things. It was the early days of the internet, but it really came about 10 years ago.
Nice. So you got quite some time in doing all of this stuff. That's pretty dope, man. Keep doing what you're doing, man.
Make me feel old.
I'm happy I got to meet you on
Yes.
Wilmy's podcast. That was really fun.
That was so much fun.
Yeah,
that was a good conversation.
Game Beyond the Box. Those guys over there are wild.
They are very wild. They're like, you're not sure what you're in for. I'm like, bring it on.
You almost got to butt your way in to say anything in that thing, because people will just keep talking and talking and talking, and then you'll find yourself sitting there for a half hour. You didn't even say nothing.
I'm used to podcasts where it's like this one-on-one, or maybe 3 or 4. I think it was the max I did, and then I get there and it's like the Brady Bunch. I'm like, what the heck did I join?
Right. There's like freaking 8 of us in there.
But it was so much fun. I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
We only got 2 topics deep. I thought that was hilarious. Oh man. So out of all of the consoles and stuff that you played throughout your, lifetime, what would be the generation that you'd go back and just dig into extra hard? Like if you could just block out the world and just say, it's me and you, and I'm going through as much as I can.
I mean, the cheating answer and the answer I would honestly give is the current one. And the main reason is so many of the older games are on current platforms. It's kind of like you're getting all the generations in one, at least in some regards. So that is kind of the cop-out cheating answer. So if I were to take that away and just look into another console generation, it would probably be GameCube, PS2, Xbox, Dreamcast, Game Boy Color, that generation.
Okay.
Yeah, Game Boy Advance was that generation, actually.
Of that generation, if I were to make it even harder and say you have to only pick one console out of there, which one would be the one that you would end up with?
I mean, knowing my history, it would probably have to be PlayStation 2. And the reason I say that is because GameCube was my console of choice. So all the great GameCube games I played. Xbox was my second console of choice. And I played all the exclusives that I wanted, all the Xbox, Microsoft ones, the Sega ones. I did all that. PlayStation 2, I got third. And while I played through a lot of the great exclusives and the RPGs that were out there, there were also ones that I didn't get the chance to yet. And it does have the largest library of the three. So I would probably say that one.
All right. Now, with that being said, I'm just kind of curious if the most memorable moment of you gaming had to do with that time period, or do you have any other specific memorable moments you want to bring up that you've had within gaming that just kind of opened your eyes either more to it or, just got you involved?
I mean, I think first impressions are my biggest thing. Whenever seeing a system for the first time is probably my biggest moments of gaming just in the history, and that's still true to this day. Whenever there's a new console launch, it's always super exciting to me. But it doesn't have the same effect as it used to. And I would single it down to one time that was probably one of the most impactful in terms of my life and just in childhood and just in gaming was, again, using Toys R Us. I went to Toys R Us. It was 1996. It was I'm sorry. It was it was 96. It was about July, June, April, August, maybe. They had a special presentation for the Nintendo 64. And I was able to go there, and I was actually able to play Mario 64 for the first time. And that was so impactful because the system hadn't launched yet. We just read about it. We had, E3 was a brand new thing. We were just like, oh my God, this looks so great. Like, to me, that was the biggest generational jump because you went from 2D gaming to 3D gaming. And while 3D gaming had existed on the Saturn and the PlayStation slightly before the 64, Mario 64 was the first one to do it right. They did it just right overall. And it was just so mind-blowing to play this open world, open level Mario game with, collecting and just jumping in 3D space and go. You want to go right, you can go right. You want to go left, you can go left.
It was so smooth too.
Oh, it was smooth.
My mother, like the way you could switch directions with Mario was that was butter.
Oh, it was great. My mother literally had to pull me away from the kiosk. And while I didn't get a 64 until 98, or maybe it was 97 or 98, my mother did rent it for me when it came out for my birthday. So I got it for a weekend, and I got to play, a lot of Mario 64 and Pilot Wings 64. And they're just like, man. But yeah, that would probably be one of the biggest eye-opening gaming moments, because now, like, if they show a PlayStation 6, for example, like just today they showed Last of Us, and look, here's the PS4 for the PS5, or I couldn't tell you much of a difference. It's not a wow. It
is cool, but I agree with you 100%. I'm just like, I mean, for me, that game is one of those things where you beat it, and you move on. I'm not going to rebuy that.
Not $70. You can get the PS4 one for $10 or this one for $70. Your choice. But
right.
you get what you want a game. But it's not a generational leap. And if someone says, "Oh no, that's a huge generational leap," look at that. No, it's not. It's not like it used to be. We can only get so much to realism. At that point, you can't get any more real than real. So the jump between the 16 to the 32/64 bit was so big, and the next jump was also very big. But I think once it hit the 360 PS3, there wasn't as big leaps anymore. Like that was like the last big, oh my god, leap.
Well, yeah, this generation it seems like it's all about frame rate.
Yeah, it's all frame rate,
which is pretty cool. I mean, I think the showing of this new Last of Us, like, you know, the thing that was on just a few hours ago on Summer Game Fest, I think that it looks better. But for me, that specific game, Last of Us, is either for diehards that loved it or those that haven't got the chance to play it yet to actually get in there and get it at the best quality.
Right.
It makes sense for Sony, I guess, to do this and capitalize on all of that, you know, leftover, you know, money that they could take advantage of. But for me as a consumer that's already beat that game, it makes zero sense for me. I don't want any part of it. I mean, that story is pretty depressing. I do not want to relive it. It was a great story. It was fantastic. Yep. But reliving, it's just like Last of Us 2. That's the exact same thing. If they redid that things for whatever reason, I know they really don't need to do that at all. But if they did that for whatever reason, especially since they brought the 60 frames per second thing to it, but like I don't want to see that happen to Joel again. I'm good. No. I don't want to see that pregnant scene again. I'm good.
They're doing the Netflix show, right? So they're gonna retell the story again. So you're gonna see it
for the fourth time.
But my point is like if you look back now and like say you started, you know, say you're in your teens or your 20s and you're listening to this. First off, hi, thank you for your attention. But you're probably like, oh, it's no big deal. I grew up with 3D gaming. Well, I look at Mario 64 now, and it's so dated. Like it's so jaggedy. It's not the models aren't smooth. Like you can tell the polygons. But if you grew up with two-dimensional games, 8-bit, 16-bit, and then saw this revolutionary jump to 3D, it was something that you had to be there to experience. Probably the same way that people, when they watched silent movies, finally saw one that had audio, was probably mind-blowing to them in the same way. Or color versus black and white was mind-blowing to them. We don't get that today, that they did. So it's one of those things where you had to be there.
Yeah, mind-blowing now is like what the actual game has to offer, gameplay, at like frames per second. That's like the mind-blowing thing. Like, how much can we compare this to the PC is the mind-blowing part.
It's just a giant pissing contest at this point.
Hey, but it's fun to watch as long as you're not like too toxic. If you want to talk a little trash, cool, whatever. But if you're gonna, you know, talk about somebody's life and something like that, then I don't need to hear about any of that stuff. It's not that deep. But moving a little bit along, now I'm gonna skip this next question about like first game that comes to mind or whatnot.
Oh, see, that was actually one of the questions when I was looking at, was like, that's actually a unique question. I haven't seen that one before.
Okay, well, then I'll bring it. I'll keep it on the table right now, but I have a different kind of question that I wanted to bring to you. So obviously the Nintendo Direct hasn't been announced yet. So far, we've seen the Summer Game Fest, this one. I mean, I think there's a second one that's going to be coming later on. Is that like in July or something like that?
Yeah, I think there's something else coming. Yeah.
But we also seen the PlayStation State of Play.
Mm-hmm.
What was your takes from those? Like, and what games were you maybe looking out for that caught your eye?
Okay, so the State of Play I thought was okay. It was one of those things where they had some really good things. Like for me, you know, Final Fantasy 16 was awesome. I was super excited about that. And Enter Night looks good, and Stray looks cool, and I think those are the game's seasons. Things like that caught my attention. The big game they were pushing obviously was Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 8 VR. I'm not a horror guy, so for those people that, oh my god, that's the greatest thing ever, good for you. I'm really happy for you. I'm not going to dog you because you're happy, enjoy what you enjoy. For me, it didn't do anything. And there's nothing wrong with that. Not every game is for everybody. So I thought, as a presentation, I thought it was kind of weak, because I felt the pacing was off.
Really? You thought the pacing was off in that? I thought the pacing was pretty good.
I felt the pacing was off because they kind of just jumped into things without any type of break. It was like little tiny short sections, and it was just like, here's Resident Evil, here's the VR section, here's the indie section, here Street Fighter in between that, and here's Final Fantasy 16. It just kind of hit at a breakneck pace. And whenever I see a show now, like Nintendo does things like that too with their headlines, and they pretty much say like, these are headlines. They're going to give you 3 of them or 4 of them, whatever, and then we're going to move to the next big thing. But whenever shows do that, I feel you don't have time to digest the game. You see one game, oh, that looks cool, you're on to the next one. And when you've seen 3 or 4 in a row, if I said, oh, what'd you think of the second game? Or which one was that again? Remind me. It's just because your brain needs time to digest and retain memory. And
isn't that what YouTube's for, though? You can just go right back and watch them again.
Correct. But it's one of those things where when there's so many, and you're dealing with the show season, right? This is E3 season. This is when there's a lot of shows. You want to be able to remember those. And to me, I felt the pacing was a little off. Not saying it was bad. I'm saying it was a little off. It was a good show, but I think I was expecting more from them. And that was my problem. I went in expecting Final Fantasy 16 and more. And I got Final Fantasy 16, which is great. And I'm excited to see what they did with it, but I wanted more, personally. I wanted to see where they were going with some of their other properties. We didn't even see God of War. Like, that's supposed to be their only real big title coming out the rest of this year that we know of, right? And we didn't see anything of it. We got a lot
of talks of that being delayed.
And what does Sony have then? Nothing. We got a Horizon Forbidden West update, which, great, I already beat it. I'm not going back to it. I'm interested in PlayStation VR 2. You showed me games. How about talk about release date? How about talk about price? How about show off the system and what it could do?
I feel that 100%.
Price. I want to see.
I do want to see what price it is.
You showing me games? Okay, well, no one can play this yet because no one has it, because you haven't released it. There's no pre-order, nothing. So that's that for me. The showcase today, the Summer Game Fest, I thought it was okay. Again, whenever there's any of these things, there's going to be games you're really excited about, and there's games that you don't care about. And like Call of Duty came on, and I got up and I did some work around the house. I was like, all right, I'll come back. I don't need to see a whole level of a game I have no interest in. But if you're a big Call of Duty fan and you loved it, again, perfect. There was a lot of horror. Again, I'm not big into horror. There was a lot of like the Callista something, and there was another game that was very Dead Spacey. Horror fans eating well, and you know what? I'm happy for you, because everybody needs to enjoy stuff.
Especially well, dude.
Especially well.
Last
of Us, even. Last of Us is,
Callisto Protocol.
Was it Protocol?
Yeah. Here eventually there's gonna be a Dead Space, remake that's coming out, and
they did Walking Dead, and PSVR was showing off. They're eating well. There was some other cool stuff that they showed off. I thought the Rock segment was really weird. It almost looked like he was drunk and just kind of mumbling. He just kept going from topic to topic, and it was just like hilarious.
Zoa.
Showing his drink, and he was going from I'm in Fortnite to, oh yeah, you know me as a bunch of different names, and I drink this, and my gym is sweaty and smelly, and I drink this, and oh yeah, I've got a movie coming out, and I was born to play that, and like I was like, dude,
and I drink this.
It was so cringe, and I don't use that term, and I don't find things cringe often, and that one, that was just cringe. More power to you. There was I
He
it
called
was a
himself
good
the
overall
foundation layer.
founded. You know, Jeff puts on these shows, and you know he's got the passion there, and he's got the the drive there, and I commend him for it. I thought it was a good overall show. Like I said, it was something other than E3, but I'm kind of curious about next year most of all because E3 has stated, or the Electronic Board has stated that they're going to have an in-person and digital show next year. But Jeff also said next year's Summer Game Fest is going to be not only digital but in person as well. How are those going to work? Are those going to conflict? Because usually they're around the same time. So I'm really interested to see what they do next year.
Oh, well, I mean, we might have a battle between the two. I mean, you already know how Jeff feels about E3, so you might have a little competition. And I mean, it's more or less what they can attain. I think that E3 probably has a little bit more leverage than Keighley does, just because of their history and whatnot. But I don't know. We'll see. I mean, last year we had like Elden Ring at Keighley's show, so you never know what you could see. You never know who what kind of ties people have and when they will come into matter. So really interesting to see how that's all going to work out. I know for this specific show, I was not a big fan of it. I felt like they kind of blew their whole load right at the beginning of the show, and the rest of it was kind of forgettable.
And see, it's funny is because the whole beginning is something I didn't care about because it was Call of Duty and the Callisto and all that stuff, and I was like, I don't care about it.
But that seemed like the hottest part of the whole presentation.
Which, again, if those are the games that you love, then sure. If those are the games you don't love, then it does.
They're not even games that I love. I mean, Call of Duty. I love Infinity Ward and Modern Warfare games. Like I do like that, but I like the story part of it a little bit more than the multiplayer. I haven't really been big into multiplayer since Modern Warfare 3 for like the 360. I kind of got out of that.
We got Casey Jones and Turtles, which looks really good. So,
yeah, and that's coming to Game Pass. That's pretty. That's pretty exciting.
There was that other game, Star Rift or Space Rift or something that's made by ex-Blizzard people that looked like StarCraft. It was real-time strategy. That looked really cool. Really interested to see how that works. That has StarCraft vibes. There was
the Soulless game.
I forget what the name of it was called. It had the trailer with the girl, like the Tomb Raider type girl, and she found the gem, and like the demon came after her. It was a real-time strategy game. That looks really cool.
Yeah,
I forget the name of it now.
My brain probably kind of shut off because I don't really play a whole lot of RTS games.
I didn't even know there was a Goat Simulator 2, but I thought the trailer for Goat Simulator 3 was brilliant.
That tricked everybody.
I thought that was Dead Space or Dead Island 2. I'm like, oh, they're finally going back to it. And then I'm like, oh wait, what? No, that I loved it. I thought that was such a good play because we've been waiting for Dead Island 2 news. And again, I'm not a horror fan, but I know the story of the game, and I'm like, oh, I want those people to get the game they've been waiting for. So to see that, I'm like, oh, we're getting Dead Island 2, cool. And I'm like, oh wait, no, what the heck is this? why are there goats? Oh my god, this Goat Simulator. That I thought was brilliant. I think that was my favorite trailer overall. And it objectively, it wasn't even a great trailer, but knowing the story about Dead Island 2 made it objectively a better trailer.
Get it?
Because it was a troll.
Big troll, because it had everybody in the chat on YouTube was saying Dead Island. In the party chat that I was in, everybody was saying, "Oh, this is Dead Island. This has got to be Dead Island." And then that goat runs and hits the screen and it says Goat Simulator 3. And it's like, wait a second, there is a 2?
Yeah, I didn't even know there was a 2. I'm like, oh, this is Goat Simulator 2. And it's like 3. I'm like, 3? I didn't even know there was a 2. There was the what was it? It was one other thing that was kind of interesting. Flashback 2 didn't do anything for me. I thought Flashback was never a game I really enjoyed. So I'm happy it's back, but yeah, like I said, it wasn't a great thing. Cuphead was pretty cool. There was the Marvel Midnight Suns looks cool. Seeing Venom getting taken over like that, I'm interested to see it, but I need to see more whether or not it's going to be like amazing. But again, it was an okay show. The Genshin team doing Star Ocean ripoff and the Metal Gear Rising Scarlet Nexus ripoff is kind of interesting. They're just ripping off other studios, but they're not bringing them to like consoles. It's like mobile and PC. Like bring those to consoles. What are you scared of?
Yeah, for me, I felt like during the showcase, I needed to see more gameplay at a lot of those games.
Oh, it's always the case.
I mean, yeah, that's always the case, but like, damn, like I felt like I was learning some of the wrong things about the games. Like for instance, the what was that? Saints Row customization. Yeah. I don't need to know that. Like, I mean, I already know there's customization in the game. I don't need to see a 2 to 5 minute trailer about it. About how yeah, that was probably one of the worst announcements in that whole in that whole event. For me, last year I gave the Summer Game Fest a 7. Okay. Especially how they closed it out with Elden Ring. I thought that was brilliant. But with this year, so far, I gave it a 4, man. Just because of like the excitement that it gave me. Dude, I was tired by the end. I was not excited. I found myself further leaned back in my recliner. I wanted something to get me up and get me standing, but that last... The part that killed it the most is like I just felt like that Last of Us ending drug forever. It felt like it was like 20 minutes.
It was like, yeah, there's a big high, and like when I realized the time afterwards, I'm like, oh, that was their ending. Oh no. I don't usually give low ratings. I try to be optimistic. I mean, there were some years that Ubisoft did a presentation a year or two ago that I probably gave around a 4 or 3, where they did like they opened with like 35 minutes of Ghost Recon or whatever, and I was like, I don't care about this game. Like, that's a terrible pacing. You've already lost everybody that doesn't care about this game. Show us a trailer, maybe a quick gameplay, move on. Don't give me 35 minutes of something. That's stupid. Even if a game I like, don't give me 35 minutes of it. But I would agree with you on a 4. I normally sit there and I love these presentations. I always look forward to this time of year, and I was doing other work during a lot of it, and there were also parts where like I have other stuff to do, but I'm sitting here out of obligation. Like I feel I have to do it because of my position and because it's the industry, and I've never really, like, except for like that Ubisoft thing, I never really feel like, oh, I'm sitting here out of obligation. Usually it's because I want to be there. I want to see what they show, and it was just like, man, I'm just here because I have to. Like, and like things like Saints Row come on, I'm like, oh good, I could do email stuff right now. I'm listening, but I'm like, I could do email and not pay. Oh, a new game, okay, let's it's kind of one of those things.
Oh yeah, dude, it was just boring. Like I came into the show more hyped than when I left, and that usually when I watch an event, like even in this last State of Play, I was a little hyped at the end of it, even though I didn't think it was like the best thing ever or anything like that. I was still like, hey, that Callisto Protocol looked pretty good. But like, I also didn't sit there for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a half hour. That was a half hour show compared to sitting there for 2 hours and only seeing like 3 things that are interesting.
Well, that's exactly where pacing comes into play. Like, I know people want to see gameplay, but there has to be a limit on how much you show of any one particular game or how much you spend on one particular game, because not everybody is interested in every single game. And if you like again, the way they started the show, you and probably the majority of people were like, oh, this is some cool stuff. All right, I understand this. And I totally understand why they started the show that way with those things. But for people like me, who have no interest in those things, the first half an hour of Summer Game Fest, had nothing for me. That's a fourth of the show, and the beginning fourth of the show, so they didn't really even grab me, and I was just like, okay. And I stayed due to obligation, but the majority of people who were in my shoes would have just been like, "Yep, I'll read the highlights later. I'll do more things with my time." And it's important whenever putting on any type of show to keep your audience entertained and their attention. You don't want to keep too much time. I don't care if it's the biggest game on the planet. Not everybody is going to be in love with every single game. Even Elden Ring, right? Like they ended last year in Elden Ring. Elden Ring, people were hyped to high holy hell about Elden Ring. And I'll be honest with you, I couldn't give two rats' asses. Every time they showed it off or whatever. I don't care.
Same.
I don't care. I did not give two. I'm not a big Souls fan. I'm not a Game of Thrones fan. I did not care. And I had a lull, and I heard the reviews were good, and I decided to give it a try, and I put in over 100 hours, and I absolutely love the game. But the marketing didn't do it for me. The word of mouth did it. The seeing people enjoy it. Then maybe I'll give this one a shot. That's what did it for me. The
Like
trailers
Guardians of the Galaxy, it was awful.
The trailers of the game.
No, the trailers. Like the way that Square put out that game, they made it so uninteresting especially after the debacle with Avengers, that the trailers that they put out each time, so like during E3 and then Summer Game Fest, like all of these trailers, I was just like I felt the same as most people, like who cares? And then it took until word of mouth. It took until word of mouth to say, yo, this game actually hits. And then I'm like, oh, let me check it out. And then it went on sale like a month after the release, and I bought that game, beat it, and I was stoked on it. The music was great, the combat was fun, the commentary, the banter was hilarious. Flark everything, like it was a phenomenal game. But as you were saying, the marketing was just atrocious.
Well, we were talking earlier about the Wii U and just how marketing is what killed that system. Marketing is so important, and again, that's where having a catchy trailer, like the Ghost Simulator 3, that was a genius trailer set up that way
for a game that most people don't care about. That was genius. Yep.
Yeah, and people will talk. Heck, Dead Island, right? Dead Island did not set the world on fire. I'm not a horror fan, again, but I know that a lot of people were like, man, Dead Island, it was just average game. But everybody was talking about that trailer. When at launch, with the girl falling out the window, you see backwards and everything what happened. That trailer had impact. That was done right. That got the game sales that it probably didn't even deserve, and a sequel, well, 2 if you count Riptide. But you have a shitty trailer, or you have shitty marketing, or it drags on. A lot of times, if you know you're going to buy something or you're going to see something, you don't need to see more. It's like movie trailer. There's a new movie coming out. You're definitely seeing it. You don't need to see 8 trailers for it when you're already sold. Then you get stuff spoiled. You just want to go into the movie, see the movie. It's the same with games. If there's a game you love, oh, I'm a big Resident Evil fan. I love I'll buy everything Resident Evil. All you need to see is a logo that says this is coming, and you're already sold. That's all you need. Now, the trailer needs to get the attention of somebody who may not want to do Resident Evil. And if it succeeds, great. But don't say, oh, how is that trailer? Oh, you're still not interested? How about some gameplay? Still not interested? How about another trailer? No, dude, too much. It's not you, it's me. Too much. You have to learn the right way to do it.
Got it. All right. And then lastly, what do you kind of expect and want to see with this Xbox Bethesda showcase?
The same thing I want every year. Rare. I want to see them use Rare IP. I want to see Rare develop things. I mean, they're doing Sea of Thieves. They're still doing Sea of Thieves. And they're doing that other game. They're doing that. I forget what the name of it is. But I want to see them doing stuff. I mean, again, I grew up, N64 was my system of choice. We lived on Nintendo and Rare titles. Rare titles were very, very impactful. And They're nothing compared to what they used to be. They're nothing. They're a shadow, and they're sitting on those IPs that are they're beloved, and I want to see them either use them or sell them. But sitting on them is a crime. So I want to see them being used. That's number one. Number two, I wouldn't hate seeing, Fable. Mentioned that. I'd like to see what they're doing with Fable, and if they're making it good or not. I don't really want to see what they're gonna do and how they're gonna do. And honestly, just sometimes they surprise me with third-party releases, like niche or J-part. They'll do stuff out of their wheelhouse. They did like Tales of Vesperia Definitive Edition was shown off at their show. They did Phantasy Star Online 2 was shown off at their show like in previous years. I want to see them come out with some like a third-party game, like a game that's going to be on all systems, but them show off some new games that like JRPGs and niche titles that will excite me. I'm fully expecting to see something Halo. I'm fully expecting to see Forza 8. Is it going on now? Probably another Gears. None of those excite me. I expect them, but they don't excite me. Starfield. People are expecting to see Starfield. Starfield has to sell me. I'm not interested in Starfield at this point. Could be another Elden Ring, but I'm not interested in Starfield at this time. I didn't care about that whatever Red Dawn or whatever that other one was that was delayed. Redfall, yeah. Like I remember the trailer. It was nothing to me.
Well, it's
like,
a first-person shooter, so of course you're not
I'm already
interested in that. Until Starfield.
But at least Starfield's an RPG. But it goes at a slower pace. But it's just one of those things where I'd like to see them. You know what? I'd like to see Bethesda release a complete game. Let's get that first. Let's get them to release a game that doesn't require a day one update and doesn't require patches and doesn't have glitches up the wazoo and is a fully functioning, entertaining, fun to play game. That's what I want to see. Make it happen.
Well, it seems like a lot of these developers and stuff like that have a day one update anymore.
Oh, I hate it. I hate it so much. It's so stupid. Release your game properly. No one wants to sit there and waste more download space and time. There's nothing worse than getting a game you're really excited about, popping the disc in and going, day one update.
Yeah. I mean, I get that. I got really fast internet now, and it doesn't really bother me particularly. But like, I could see if I didn't, like if I went a few years back and there's a day one update. Yeah, like stuff like that back in the day, or like downloading a game like Red Dead Redemption 2 with like 50 megs a second back in the day. It took me all freaking day, man.
That's
all
why
freaking day to get that kind of game.
But yeah, it's still one of those things where it's just annoying. Release your game when it's done. Don't force it out there. Give your the heads of these studios, give your developers the time to make the game complete. DLC, little content patch updates for quality of life, fine, that's one thing, but make the damn game complete and playable right away.
I
I'm
feel
asking
you.
much.
yeah, that's not too much to ask, but I mean, it may kind of be easier said than done, I guess.
No, it's just easier said, because all the developers need to do, or the publishers, I should say, need to do, is give the developers the time. Say,
that's a fact.
We want you to release by October 15th, and you're saying you could do it, but it's going to be super rushed, and it's probably going to be a content patch, but if we release it October 20th or 25th, you're going to be good. Let's push it to 20th or 25th. Okay, it's a week. People will wait a week. We're fine.
I feel like these businesses like Square Enix and stuff like that want to capitalize on the, hey, we said that we were bringing it this time, we got to bring it in, and the fans kind of hold them to that expectations. So, I mean, it's kind of a weird argument in all different directions when you want to bring that up, because you have some that say, oh, like, you can come out whenever, I don't really care. And then you have some people saying, hey, you gave me your word on this specific time, and you made it seem so like absolute that now I'm sitting here with, my hands in the cookie jar tripping.
Well,
there ain't no
you know
damn
what
cookies.
I would say to that person that either A, be patient and find something else to do, or B, play another game, because there's more games out right now than you'll ever play in your lifetime. Because games are complicated. They're big teams, and you have to be reasonable. You can't set unrealistic expectations on these developers, because that's not fair to them. They're people just like you and I. They're working their butts off, and they're trying the best. And they don't need that added pressure, because what happens when we have that added pressure? We often make mistakes. All of us do it, because we're added that pressure. Take away that pressure, let them work at their own pace. They're going to have more fun. If a developer's having fun making a game, you know what? The game is usually going to be fun. If the developer is forced to make a game and they're slaving, and their crunch time is so stressful that they haven't seen their family in weeks, they're probably not going to care about what you think about the game.
Sure. I'm guilty of both ends of this, of saying, oh yeah, give it some time, and also being like, what the hell are you guys up to over there? Why'd you say this?
Look, there's nothing
that
wrong
goes
with
back
being
into marketing,
disappointed.
like you said earlier.
Yeah.
There's that goes back into marketing, because sometimes I feel like these folks have no business coming out here saying something, but they do anyways. And then,
Of course.
and then once they have to delay it, fans get mad. They're like, "Oh, why are you so mad?" And it's like, because you said something that you didn't need to say.
Well, that's a miscommunication, and I 100% agree. Disappointment is a thing, and you're absolutely feel disappointed. That's normal, but you still have to be reasonable that they're still people making games. It's you have to give them time. And again, there's games in your backlog. I don't care who you are. If you've been gaming for 40 years or you've been gaming for 5 years, there's plenty of games that you've never played before that you can fill that time with, and you could discover a new favorite game that way. Guaranteed. There's so many games. There's more games that come out every week that we could play, let alone what already exists. Try another game.
All right, so now we got through all of the showcase discussion. Let's go on ahead and go back to that question that you're pretty interested in. So without overthinking, what's the first game that comes to mind when I name the console? Okay? So I'm going to be jumping all over the place.
Good.
And you name the game. So the first one I'm going to start with is the Nomad.
The Nomad. So I would probably say Sonic the Hedgehog 3.
Yeah, because it's pretty much just Genesis.
It's a Genesis.
All right, so then the next one I'm gonna go with is the 3DO.
Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo.
Wow, that's something I didn't expect you to bring up. I thought I might hear like Gex or Road Rash or something like that. All right, so then the next one I want to bring up is PlayStation original.
Chrono Cross.
Ooh, that was quick and easy. NES.
Battle of Olympus.
Okay. Dreamcast.
Grandia 2.
64.
Mario 64.
Simple. Let's go with the Commodore 64.
Ranch.
Atari. Let's go with the Atari. I'm trying to remember which iteration I want to use.
Most of them had the same games. Or different versions of the games.
Okay. So, let's just go with the one. Let's just go with the one that you had.
Agent USA.
All right. Xbox 360.
Blue Dragon.
Vectrex.
Ooh, Berserk.
Berserk. Always have a million platforms running around in my head until it's time to do this. Saturn.
Panzer Dragoon Saga.
Sega CD.
Sonic CD.
Sonic CD. Man, you're killing it right now. You're hitting these fast. Usually I have time to think of the next console in between the person's ums.
When you said what comes in, and it's like sometimes it's like mixture. Like with the 360, when you said it, I almost said Lost Dragon because I had Lost Odyssey and Blue Dragon like both fighting for me because talking about Mistwalker, and I was like, oh, Blue Dragon.
All right, let's do a couple more. PS4.
Ooh, crap. Last of Us Part 2.
Last of Us Part 2. Xbox One.
Recore.
Wow. I didn't expect you to dig and grab that one. All right. Let's see. Game Boy Advance.
Sonic Advance.
Game Gear.
Panzer Dragoon Mini.
Wii U.
Oh, Wii U. Nintendo Land.
All right. Stadia.
Oh God. Was it? It was one of the Tomb Raider. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, I think, was on there. I don't have a Stadia. Hot garbage.
Oh, the shade.
I think Shadow of the Tomb Raider was on there, though. I could be wrong.
All right. Super NES.
Chrono Trigger.
Dragwire.
Ooh, where did you learn to fly? Cybermorph.
All right. SNK. Which one?
Which one?
Yeah. Let's go with the disc Neo Geo.
Oh, Neo Geo CD.
Yep.
Double Dragon.
All right, I had enough. Dude, you killed that section. You crushed that section. That was awesome. That was a lot of fun. Cozy Beluga in the chat says Stadia is good.
Oh, garbage.
She heard you.
Hot garbage.
Oh man.
I'll stand by that stream. Look, it has the premise to be good. They tried it with the OnLive, it sucked. They're trying it with Stadia. You know what? It hasn't set the world on fire because it sucks. It's good if that's your only way to play, but that's like the worst play. That's like saying, "Hey, man, you could play on a Game Boy, or you could play on a Game Gear, or you can play on a TI-83 calculator. It's serviceable. You could probably get away with playing Snake in class, but if someone had a version of Mario on TI-83 that someone made, it's nowhere near as good as Mario Land on the Game Boy. It's serviceable. That's what Stadia is. It's serviceable if that's your only option, but there's far better options for you.
Yeah, he gave Stadia a stormy cloud. All right, you guys in the chat, thanks for showing up. I've still got a few more questions to go, but make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and go ahead and share this out to Twitter, Facebook, or whatever, so more people can come in, check it out, and come kick it for a little while. But what is a genre of games that you just don't vibe with that well? I feel like I already kind of got this answer by talking to you so far, but go on ahead and let the people know that may have just showed up.
I would say of all of them, horror would probably be my least favorite, and that's not to say I haven't found good horror shooters. Because there's been some good first-person shooters that I've enjoyed, and some of them will work if it's more of like story-driven, like BioShock Infinite, or something like that. Horror, unless it's like visual novel. For some reason, I like horror visual novel games. I don't know why. But if it's not that, I'm just not a fan. I'm not a jump scare. My heart issues run in the family. I don't like to be scared. So just never did it for me.
Fair enough. And then what are the best 3 games that you played last year? Like, so 2021 specifically.
2021 specifically. Well, top would be Trails of Cold Steel 4, which came out last year. Ease 9, and last year probably Persona 5 Strikers.
All right. So those are the top 3 for those. I know Persona 5 was a big hit. Now, kind of curious where you're gonna lie this next one, but favorite studio and the best game to represent it.
Okay. Currently, I have to put 2 studios that I
Okay.
think are top of the game. One is Monolith Soft, and I would say Xenoblade 2 or Xenoblade 1 or any of them, Xenoblade X, even going back to Xenosaga, Xenogears, or Bait and Kados. But I would say easily accessible Xenoblade 1 or 2, hands down. Phenomenal games, phenomenal music, so well done. The Monolith Soft has just had their hands, talking about the cookie jar, they've had their hands in so many games. They've assisted Nintendo with so many games. Breath of the Wild being one of them. They're working on Breath of the Wild 2 as well. And Xenoblade 3 is a month away. So that's one. The other one is a studio that I call the absolute best studio that people aren't playing their games, because I feel Xenoblade's at least being played. And that is Falcom. I feel the majority of people have no idea who Falcom is, and they're 40 years old. They produced the Ys series, the Legend of Heroes series, the games like Tokyo Xanadu. They just know world building like no other company does or no other studio does. The way they've told the Ys series through journals is just really cool, where they're all interconnected but all separate. And the arc, the beautiful arc of the Legend of Heroes series, especially the Trials of, just phenomenal way, from the way the Sky trilogy leads into Cold Steel and the Crossbell duology and comes together in Cold Steel 4 like Avengers Endgame. It's so well done, and it's one of the few games that made me actually care about towns. Like, normally I don't give a crap about towns in a game. Like, whatever, it's a town. But now it's like, oh my god, what happened? Where the market? I loved that market. What did you do? Like, it's such a cool war story that really kind of hits home. And again, they're big games. A lot of story beats. Either turn-based RPGs like Legend of Heroes or action combat like Ys. Just phenomenal. So if I had to pick a game, I'd say either Cold Steel 1 or 3 is a good jumping point for that series, or for Ys. Could be any of them, but Ys 8 or 9. Both are super accessible on current platforms. And a lot of people are like, oh, I love games like Spider-Man. Well, you'd love Ys 9 because you could do all the same things running around the city, running up walls and jumping around and gliding and all that stuff.
Dope. So I'm going to ask you the same question, but now I'm going to kick it old school. I want to know what your old, like if you were to go into like early 2000s, so like from 20 years ago and below, or years prior, what would you say were the best 2 studios for you then? Publishers or developers?
Probably Rare, because that was Rare's heyday. And Squaresoft, I would say. Those 2. And Nintendo would be right there too. It'd be Nintendo or Rare, depending. Like, Nintendo had more titles during that time period, but Rare also had some bangers, and that was their heyday period. And Squaresoft, I mean, come on. They're just so many games. I mean, if I had to pick one to showcase from that time period, Final Fantasy VI, hands down. Chrono Trigger is a second. Final Fantasy 9, I'd say would probably be a third of that. That was 2001, so I don't know if that counts. And then for Rare, I would say probably Banjo-Kazooie or Diddy Kong Racing, and from Nintendo, any of the Zeldas. Just pick and choose, pretty much. Zelda, Link to the Past, or Link's Awakening easily. Ocarina of Time.
All right, so for me, I'd have to say for that time period, probably I want to say THQ, and then also Midway.
Oh man,
Midway was a
souls.
beast, man. They were so good.
Word being the operative word. Yeah, both of them great studios, great publishers.
Rest in peace, Midway.
And THQ too. THQ went out.
Oh,
but THQ today is not the same.
They kind of they kind of like got sold, branched off and whatnot. They're not the same THQ that we grew up playing at all.
Man, those N64 wrestling games from THQ.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. WrestleMania 2000 and No Mercy, dude. I was a savage in those games.
And WCW, NWO, World Tour, and Revenge as well.
Revenge was mine. I didn't do so much World Tour, but Revenge was my joint. Man, I loved those games. They were so
much fun.
Like customizable.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the further down the line they went, because Revenge was pretty cool, but then WrestleMania 2000 came out and it was like, wow, there's a lot of customization you can do, and the further you get into the game, the more intro that unfolds and stuff like that. And then you get to No Mercy and you got like TLC matches and Hell in the Cell and stuff like that. You had Hell in the Cell, I believe, in 2000, but just the stuff that you could do was amplified in No Mercy, especially the TLC. That was super cool. Then putting somebody through a table in a 64 game was dope. Yes. And they had good competition as well, which is what I really miss about that time period. You had football competition between 2K and EA, and you had these different, and even 989 Sports, if you remember that way back in the day, with Game Day and Game Breaker and stuff like that. And then you had the crazy sports games from Midway and Acclaim. Acclaim was super dope back then too.
Club and All-Star Baseball, and don't forget Nintendo used to do their own, the Ken Griffey Jr. Baseball, and the Kobe Bryant and NBA Courtside. There was a lot of options.
Showtime, even with Shaq on the cover.
Oh man, well that was Acclaim with the NBA Jam. It was a follow up to NBA Jam.
Yes.
All that's gone now because of all licensing, and even that's losing now. EA lost the FIFA license, and
I'm happy about it.
The only reason Sony still has MLB is because they put the show on Xbox and Switch, because MLB said you can keep it, but we want our game on everybody. We want everybody to be able to enjoy. So you have to do that. That's why the show is on Xbox and Switch.
Yeah.
The only other option is RBI Baseball, and that's also kind of hot garbage.
I know this is a different genre, but I feel like they thought the same way. Square Enix looked at, or not Square, but Capcom looked at Street Fighter and was like, we ain't doing that shit again.
Oh, no.
We need to play this on everything.
Like Sony, I think, helped fund Street Fighter V, which is why it was like that. You look at other fighting games, right? You have Soul Calibur. That's, Soul Edge was PlayStation, Soul Calibur was Dreamcast, arcades too, but home consoles, Dreamcast. Soul Calibur 2 was on everything with guest characters, and the GameCube one sold the best. So what did Sony do? Link? They paid, so Sony paid to have Soul Calibur 3 exclusive to PS2, and it did nothing. So then Soul Calibur 4 went to, multiple systems again, and it's been that way since. That's the same thing. Street Fighter 5 is like a blip. It's like, oh yeah, that was a thing that happened, but not everybody got to experience it because it was only on PlayStation.
Yeah, it took years for that game to make decent sales, and that's like after it going on sale and stuff like that.
I'm talking about a game that's released unfinished. Street Fighter V didn't even have a story mode or anything, or arcade mode or anything. It was like it was released unfinished.
Whoops. All right, so of all the games to come out that you've heard about, so I mean, this could be games coming out this year, next year, the next year after that, whatever. What are you most excited for?
Xenoblade Chronicles 3, hands down.
Wow, the game that's right around the corner.
Yep, and then Trails from Zero, which is one of the Crossbell games coming out later this year in September, is probably my number 2 for the year.
How about for further out?
Further out, well, they announced 4 Falcom titles all coming out, so probably all of the remaining 3 of those would definitely be up there. Breath of the Wild 2, of course, next year. Metroid Prime 4, whenever that comes out. Final Fantasy 16, already mentioned. Whenever that decides to grace us with its presence. Those are probably the biggest ones that I can think of off the top of my head. God of War, whenever that decides to drop. That's about it. Nothing else that's been like announced thus far that I'm aware of has it has become a tentpole. AI is probably the next closest. The AI sequel comes out this month. So I'm really excited about that one too. Live, but again, it's like these are games that I look forward to and look forward to playing, but and of course this could all change in the next few days with Microsoft and with Nintendo putting out showcases and announcing things that go, oh my god, I absolutely have to have that game. But nothing else that's currently announced that I'm aware of has me going, oh my god, like must play, drop everything kind of deal. Stuff I will play, but it's not, oh my god, I have to play right away.
I gotcha. All right, and then as we get towards the end, I got a few more questions for you. If you were to revive 2 games from the past to be brought up to like, high standards, so like AAA or the new quadruple A that people are trying to talk about, which is like that's not real yet, but interesting, concept. But like if you were to like bring 2 games back from that time, what 2 would they be? And I'm gonna make this kind of difficult. I'm gonna have you do one for each of the new consoles. So 2 games for PlayStation, 2 games for Xbox, and 2 games for Switch.
Are you talking about bringing back IPs or remaking games that exist, like giving the remake treatment?
Well, I'm going to say IPs because I don't want it to get muddy with like third party.
Fair enough. Oh, so you're saying first party Nintendo, first party Sony, first party Microsoft?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Gotcha. Okay, so first party Nintendo. First would be Star Tropics. I'd love to see that series come back. It was American only, and they're not really doing anything with it. They haven't since the NES, so I'd love to see that back. Second, I would probably say F-Zero. It's been a minute since the GameCube. Let's bring that back. Let's get another great racing entry out of it.
Some more Falcon.
Hell yeah. So for Sony, I would say Legend of Dragoon. Get a new game there, and thinking
Legend
about
of Legia.
That's another good one. Let's say that they could do, but no, they don't. See, it's. I'm trying to figure out which studios, because sometimes they published a game, but they don't own the IP anymore. They did that a lot in like the PlayStation days. Like I think they did like Wild Arms. I think they published, but they don't own the IP. I would say Dark Cloud. Did they? I think they own Dark Cloud. Dark Cloud 3. Get Dark Cloud 3 out.
Wow, I haven't heard of that game in a long time. That's the one with the kid wearing the hat on the cover, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, the second one is, yeah.
Okay.
And for Xbox, Xbox is probably the easiest one because they own Rare. So, so Banjo, get a new Banjo Kazooie, hands down. Get that out of the way. And I don't know, what other one would I choose from Microsoft? I would probably say Jet Force Gemini, because I actually really enjoyed Jet Force Gemini. I know a lot of people weren't like the craziest about it, but I really enjoyed that. And I think the thing that game suffered the most with was frame rates, because the N64 could only do so much. So I think that could, done properly with new generations, could do really well.
Man, bro, you are all about the deep cuts. I tell you, you are all about them deep cuts. All right, here's a weird question that I'm making up off of the spot.
Good.
But what is, if you were to cancel any game from each of the main platforms, what game would you say stop development on?
I can think of one right now that's going to totally piss people off, and that's exactly why I would do it. And that would be Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2. Just because I want Square to suffer for releasing a game in parts, because the fanboys will buy anything with Final Fantasy VII on it. And I think that would be absolutely hilarious if Square had that foot in their mouth to be like, oh yeah, suckers, we sold you only part of a game. We never promised you a second part was even going to come, and now it's canceled. So for the hilarity of it and the drama, that one for sure for Sony.
So that's PlayStation.
That's PlayStation, definitely. For on Nintendo, see, that's a tough one for Nintendo or Microsoft, because when you want a game canceled, it's usually, for the lulls or for the animosity. I guess for Xbox, maybe Halo, like any further Halo, if they're working on one, because from everything I've heard, they haven't been handling the property well, and the last few have been not that great. And again, I'm not a player, this is just what I've heard. So put the series out of its misery, kind of deal, until
That's a wild one.
until a studio can handle it properly. That's just what I've heard. Again, I haven't played, but I've heard like 5 wasn't very good, and even Infinite or whatever, the new one, like the multiplayer was okay, but like the story wasn't good or something like that. Or
I liked the story to be biased on my end. I really liked the story. The multiplayer is dope, but it's just like, I mean, you've heard it a million times. Where's the beef? Where's the beef?
Well, like the game's already existing, so that wouldn't disappear. But like whatever, if they're working on one secretly right now, like that one. For Nintendo, you know what? The 1-2 Switch follow-up that they're apparently having problems with, which is the rumor, because we don't need it. We don't need it.
You said the whole console just stopped.
Not the console.
Oh, I thought you said like a second iteration to a Switch or something like that.
No, they're following up the game 1-2 Switch.
Oh, I don't even know what that is.
That was a launch title for the Switch that was pretty much a tech demo that should have been the pack-in. They're doing a follow-up, and apparently they're having problems with the sequel to it. So just cancel that, because we don't need that. Oh no, I definitely want to Switch too, hands down. But the game 1-2 Switch, it was the tech demo. You probably saw it. They showcased it all the time with like the gunslinger with the quick draw and the eating and the milking the cow and all that stuff. It was a pretty much a showcase for what the Joy-Cons could do.
Oh, well, yeah. I'll have to go back and check that out, because it's nothing's coming to mind when I think of that at all. To be honest.
Case in point, we don't need a follow-up.
He's like, well, there you go. You don't need it. Well, anyways, now here's kind of a passionate question.
Oh boy.
What about gaming as a whole? So any department, piece, or whatever frustrates you?
Toxic fanboyism, if that counts.
Yeah.
Just I can't stand it. Not just gaming, it's just everywhere. Just like it's okay to not like everything. It's okay to be disappointed by things. It's a different thing when you take it out on developers, when you send death threats, when you send hate messages to developers and publishers and to anybody that dare like something you don't like. That needs to stop. Or they play on a system you don't play. That needs to stop. Just enjoy the games you like, and if you're disappointed, be disappointed, but don't take it out on other people. Period.
Simple, clean cut, to the point. Love it. And then on the flip side, what would be like a dream come true in gaming as a whole? Not like a specific game or console or whatnot, just all of gaming.
On the grand scale, I would just say everyone just respecting one another and having good communities across the board and just letting people enjoy what they love and come together as a collective love of video gaming and just celebrating the industry is a grand goal. On a personal goal, I've kind of done that with publishing, getting to be able to publish games. But I wouldn't hate, actually making my own game. I'm just not that talented when it comes to coding.
Gotcha. Well, that was pretty dope. And just kind of to almost end it, what do you enjoy doing like outside of gaming? So that has nothing to do with games.
That's a tough question because everything I do just involves games now. I work in the industry. So, obviously spending time with my wife, watching, TV or movies or going for walks. That's probably the main thing. Because I'm not a big traveler. When I travel, it's for gaming conventions. In addition to working as a game publisher and a game journalist, I collect. So my house is filled with collections and working on, fixing things up and displaying things properly and organizing and always organizing and cataloging and stuff like that, which takes up a lot of my my spare time. And then having conversations like this, just hanging out with friends and talking gaming or, discussing history on it. And like, it's become such a big facet of my life that, I'm ingrained in it. I'm like Bane.
All right. Yeah, that's pretty nice. Very regular things.
Yeah. I'm a simple guy. Hang out with friends, watch movies, watch TV, go for walks. That's it. I don't really do much, especially since COVID. Really haven't gone out places except for a couple conventions.
All right. Well, now I reached the point of the show where I ask you if you have any questions for me. And just to kind of give you a heads up on like the last couple of questions so you don't make the mistake of asking me like similar ones. Like I've recently got asked why I do this kind of stuff or where I got the idea of getting into content creation. I've also been asked, what my favorite couple of games of all time has been. So what do you have for me, if anything?
Well, I don't want to do a repeat question because that's no fun, and I don't want to do a generic question. I want to try and think. Give me a second here. I'm trying to think of something that I think will be more impactful, and I'll say this: What would be your dream phone call? If the phone were to ring right now. Now this could be somebody that wants to come on your show. Be anybody. You could pick whoever your dream person would be. This could be a particular con or inviting you out to do panels or be a guest speaker. This could be a game developer asking you to contribute to the next game of whatever series you want, either be a writer, an idea maker, a voice actor or motion cap or whatever you want. It's your dream, or it could have nothing to do with gaming. You know,
Oh, it has
what
something to
would
do
be
with
your
gaming.
what would be your dream phone? Phone rings right now. Who's on the other end, and what are they asking you?
So my thing, I would like to get a phone call from IGN, GameSpot, or some sort of journalist company to pick up my type of show and ask me to look for and be sponsored by them when making the show, and also give me some sort of directory or not exactly a directory, but just an easier way to be able to reach out to people. Like, so my name, is what it is on Twitter, but if I could use like a handle of like GameSpot or a handle of IGN and be able to message people so they see it's from IGN, it's not from me, it's from like a business reaching out to do like interviews with just gamers and content creators like I'm doing now, that would be the dream for me, because then I'm actually doing it for a broader crowd of people, and I feel like these people within the gaming community would be able to kind of feel more heard and more respected and valued. That's what that's what my dream phone call would be like.
That is an amazing answer. Absolutely amazing answer. And I hear you. It's definitely one of those things when reaching out to developers, they get questions all the time. How do you make sure your message gets seen and your message gets replied to? Hands down, absolutely. And I really, really hope you get that phone call sooner than later, because you absolutely deserve that attention.
Yeah, man. I mean, because what's the best, piece of advertising? Word of mouth, right? So like, if I could talk to people, whether they are early content creators, very successful content creators, regular gamers, pro gamers, like esports gamers, that right there, just being able to interview all of those sorts of different people, you can get a lot of statistics from stuff like that and get a good feeling of what the people want more than what the developer or publisher wants to give you. So you can almost hone it in a little bit tighter.
Yep.
To see, oh man, these people are agreeing with this. Oh, let's see what the chat kind of thinks. Oh, like 90% of them said that they wouldn't care to see that title or something like that. And I'm not saying that you have to go by these statistics, but it definitely doesn't hurt to have extra statistics.
Absolutely not. No, it definitely doesn't. No,
That's kind of
it's
where my
great
heart
to have.
lies.
That's awesome, because you're already doing what you love, and this would only be an amplifier. And all I could say is you just keep at it. Just keep doing what you do, keep doing what you love, and opportunities happen in the weirdest way. It's just about who you meet, who you connect with. It's all connections, right? If you ever go to like any cons, it's all connections. It's all about who you meet there, who you see there, and using those connections to broaden your horizons. So I mean, heck, we did the same thing. We met the same way by group call, where we both went onto a different third party show, and that's it. Just make those connections. So absolutely, hands down, you deserve it, and I really hope to see it sooner versus later.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. But I kind of want to hear what your dream kind of would be then. Like, in that same aspect, that same question asked back to you. I'm kind of curious.
Oh, the old your turn.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I would love to have, a studio. Hey, we want your input. If Nintendo said we want your input on the next Zelda and we want you to work on the next Zelda, hell yeah. Same with Monolith Soft and the next Xenoblade. Hell yeah, like any of the Square and the next Final Fantasy, of course. That would be awesome. Or Nintendo saying, hey, we want you to publish our physical copies of our games. I would absolutely take that too. That would be one hell of a thing. Won't happen, but I would love it. But otherwise, just yeah, that would be mainly it, because I would love to be able to have. That's the one thing I haven't done. Have a real direct impact on a major title and be able to say, like, oh, look, there's my name in the credits of not a Kickstarter title, but like look, I actually had an input there. That would be really, really cool.
That sounds pretty damn dope. That would be very interesting to see, and I'd be like, hey, that's the guy I interviewed. There he goes. Look at him.
Yeah, that guy interviewed over there. Yeah, I know him. I interviewed him once. That guy. Hey, guy, I know you.
There's a hawk.
Yeah, that's great.
All right, so very fantastic. The last thing I have everybody do before I end the show is I ask them to describe gaming, and this is the part where everybody buckles a little bit. I ask everybody to describe gaming in just 3 words.
3 words?
Yep.
Okay, let's see. I thought of something immediately, but I was like, no, maybe not. Imagination run wild.
Ooh, smooth. Not 3 random separate words. That all runs together. Fantastic. Imagination runs wild. So, Barry or Hawk, I'd like to thank you so much for having the time to spend with me on this show, Behind Them Sticks. I really appreciate everything that you had to say, your points of view, how different we are, but can still come to common grounds on some areas is wonderful. And I think that's needed more in the community, is just an understanding. And yeah, you don't have to agree on everything, but you can respect it. I mean, you can respect it and just move on, right?
That's, like I said, that's just, not every game is for everybody, and that's okay. You don't have to love everything. If someone loves something, you don't have to love it. If someone loves a system, you don't have to love it. As long as you respect their choices and you respect what they like to play, and you can come together, and maybe you can even learn some new appreciation. Hey, have you played this game? No, it's not my cup of tea. Well, let me at least tell you about it, because I just played it. It was fantastic. And what do you think? And this is some of the, oh, maybe that sounds pretty cool. Or have you played on this system? No, I don't like that system. Oh, what don't you like? Well, maybe here's some new features. Maybe this will be cool. Or, there's always ways to learn, and you learn so much just by listening. Just listening to somebody else. You don't have to open up your mouth. Keep your mouth closed. Just listen, and
old
learn.
Saying, two ears, one mouth.
Exactly, 100%. Just, we all love this hobby. We all live by this hobby. We all do things for this hobby. We all spend time like this getting to know one another because of a hobby. Whether we like the same games or not doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, as long as we're having fun, as long as we're civil, as long as we're friendly. I don't give a crap what you play, as long as you're enjoying life. We're all here in such a short amount of time. Enjoy yourself. Have fun.
And that's the bottom line. No, I'm just kidding. Because Stone Cold said so. But anyways, very good show. I appreciate you being here. Everybody that was in the chat and that's still in the chat, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you enjoyed the show. And if you're new to this channel, don't be afraid to hit me up either on TSWS Gaming or on Twitter at HamSolo05 Gaming. But before we leave, Barry, go on ahead and let everybody know where they can find you just one more time.
Sure. So you could find me on Twitter at Hawk Hellfire. You could also find me on YouTube at youtube.com/NintendoFuse, where you could find our bi-weekly podcast interviews that I've done with developers, as well as some reviews that I've done. You could also find me at premiumeditiongames.com, where we have our latest series of titles up for pre-order, Wonderling DX and Rain in Your Parade. We also have a second chance sale on some of our Series 3 titles that are available right now as we speak, as well as Switch Collector 1 and 2. And you could find us at premiumeditiongames.com, plus on all social media apps. You can, or not social media apps. You can find us on social media apps. The Premium Edition Games are at Premium Edition 1 and at Nintendo Fuse. But on podcast avenues of choice, whatever you want, you can find the Nintendo Fuse podcast and the Premium Playcast there as well.
Very awesome. Very awesome. Make sure you guys tune in tomorrow as well, that we're going to be doing bullsitting with Cozy Beluga and Loke 7. Those are the other two panel members that I have regularly on this channel. And then we have a guest, so tune in to see who it is. And as of next Tuesday and Thursday, the two guests I have it on that I am having on is J-Rock on Tuesday, which is going to be really interesting because it's going to be right after the event. And then Thursday I got, oh man, right off the top of my head, I don't even freaking remember. So I guess you're going to have to just tune in on Twitter and check it out. And you'll be able to keep up with what's going on, or hit that bell icon on YouTube and it will pop up for you when I have everything ready to go. But I appreciate everybody for coming out. Y'all have a wonderful day. Be safe. And like I always say, keep it gaming or keep it moving. See you later, everybody.
Have a good one.
Welcome to the Behind Them Sticks podcast, brought to you by TSWS Gaming.
Come and talk to me, Lennard Ray. That's your name. Come and talk to me. I just wanna have a conversation. No, I'm not your type of baby. Listen, I'm just saying we can rule the world, just me and you, if you could play it. Won't you take a chance with me and have that conversation? I just wanna have that conversation with you. Come and talk to me. I just wanna have that conversation with you. Look, see we vibing and you know it's true. Baby, what it do? Do for me and I'ma do for you. No doubt about it. Boosie, I'm a Midwest king, looking for myself a queen. Ready to chase a dream with a